I drove few cuts through my neighborhood.
Am I here? It like flashed me on and off like really quick. Hi everybody. Welcome to another episode of Fearlessly Authentic. I'm Lucky.
What
and
up?
as Steve.
Hello. Hello.
Hey, we're looping. And with us tonight, we have Zenab. I think you're there. It seems to be a little bit like glitchy right this very second. So how are you, dear? Welcome back.
Doing great. How are you doing?
Good. Just like enjoying the quiet today. It's been nice and quiet, relaxing. So that's just always a good thing.
Yeah, that's a good is it Labor Day? Labor Day, right? Memorial Day.
Memorial.
Yes. Okay. I always get them backwards.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, it's one of the fireworks holiday things that everyone, wants to scare the shit out of, like, vets, the kids, the pets, like anybody with PTSD from gunshots, that it's one of those.
Kind of ironic, huh? Considering it's Memorial Day.
And it's crazy because I think about the wildlife and the kids that are affected by it. I'm always kids are always like near and dear to my heart, and I'm always thinking about them. But then I'm like, the people that come back from war, they must, if they're triggered by that must be a really hard thing for them to kind of go through, to hear all that. All that popping and crashing and everything that's happening with the fireworks.
There's a huge thing. Hi, baby. There's a huge thing called Thunder over Louisville here in Louisville, and it's like airplanes all day long, like big booming airplanes, and at the end, it's like a massive fireworks show for hours, and it kind of kicks off Derby weekend, right? And some of my family members, we were out, and some of them are from the Middle East, and some of them came from like war-torn areas. Their friends were there, and they were talking about how it was, triggering. And we have a lot of migrants, and they were just talking about how, it must be triggering for some people to, have to hear the airplanes for one and stuff. So they were like, this is fun, but it feels like we're back in, back in war, and it's something that I hadn't thought about as much until they had mentioned it. And I was like, that's a really good point. I hadn't really put those two together about how, I used to help treat people with not treat, but I held PTSD group meetings. I had like a little certificate to be able to do that. So I knew it kind of had an impact, but when they mentioned it that way with the warplanes and stuff going over and those sounds and then the fireworks after, how that could be for some people, I was like, yeah, that's true, because you can hear it all over Louisville too, like all day long. It's an all-day event.
Oh, wow. Yeah, and imagine how like the animals feels. You know what I mean? Like, especially like wildlife and the animals at home, they don't understand that it's a thing. Yeah. At least with a person, they know, you know what I mean? Like, they know that this is going to be, a thing that's going to happen. But at the same time, they don't necessarily have control over how it makes them, how they react. They can control some of how they react to it, obviously. But with like PTSD, it's not rational. Like, it's not always a rational response that you have. So I always think about that when like stuff's going like that. I'm like, oh, I just, I even though like I'm not triggered by it in that same way, I have that, the empathy and that understanding that they might be, though. They might be.
For sure. For sure. And there were some people that we were with that were refugees that were like, and trying to distract themselves with like, we were grilling out with like the fire and the family and the food from the noises. They were actually trying to distract themselves and even put like earbuds in and stuff to deal.
Yeah, I can imagine. That's definitely, that's got to be hard, especially if you come from that area. You know what I mean? If you're fleeing an area that's a war zone, like, we think about our soldiers going over there, but like, what about the people that are affected as well?
Mhm.
You know. So, I wanted to have you back on because we're always chatting and stuff, and we were talking about like, just we're always like talking about like how we're basically failing the children and the next generations, and poverty, I think, is one of the largest things that is impacting just a wide, across the spectrum of just like, there is poverty in every state in this entire in the United States, like it affects so many people, and it affects people in so many ways and of all ages. Like, it's not just kids, but it really has an impact on them and their future, though, when it comes to the children. And I think there's a lot about it that people don't necessarily think about, all the things that, if you haven't lived in that, then you might not realize how expensive it is for, for childcare, for, people are like, yeah, you just go to the store and you buy food. But if you're if you're living in poverty, then you might not be able to just go to the store and buy food, because if you don't have it, you can't, you can't spend it. If an emergency happens,
live in an area where like getting actual real food is nearly
the
impossible,
food deserts that happen around poverty.
Oh, that's a big deal too. Yeah.
Sure.
And people were like, oh, we'll go to a food bank. You know what I mean? Like, the thing is that people should be able to purchase the food, make the choices that they want for the food that they want. There's a lot of people that have dietary restrictions, and like, not everybody eats the same thing, and a lot of what you get at, like, sometimes the food pantries and stuff isn't always like healthy food on top of it. So it's like, people should be people should be able to have choices and what they want to get.
Food stamps, I mean, it shouldn't be like it is now. I mean, now it's so hard to get, like damn near impossible in many states. I mean, you have to be so poor that you're houseless, but you have to have an address in order to be able to apply. And in some states, you have to have a job, but you can only make, $18,000 a year or something crazy like that to be able to. So they've worked it into a system to where it's impossible for people that are trying to get back on their feet to have that extra help to be able to get there. The system stacked against you. Same with healthcare. I mean, Medicaid? Medicare, it's like, or Medicaid. Yeah, Medicaid, to get a health card now. When we were growing up, like everyone that was poor had a health card. Remember? You had your medical card. Everyone had a medical card. Everyone's kids had a medical card who made, median to below median, salaries. Most people had that. Now, I don't know anyone that can get a medical card for their kids. And I know so many people that have their kids are uninsured. I mean, I'm in that, situation, and no health care for our children and nowhere to go to be able to get it. It's too expensive. And almost everyone I know is out of work and is applying like crazy all the time. I've put in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of applications. I've had interview after interview. And I mean, it's from everything from like, I'll work at Taco Bell to, I would, do a call center or, things in my profession as well. And I'm not getting callbacks for work. Either I'm overqualified or,
and that's like the ridiculous thing, overqualification. It's like, no, you shouldn't be denied something because you're overqualified. That means that you fit the basic qualifications for that job. You know what I mean? Why is it too much qualification just discounts you from being able to do that work? What does that mean? You know what I mean? It just seems like,
why do they expect you to come and work at like a McDonald's for the rest of your damn life? I mean, that's stupid on its face. I mean, we used to be able to get, jobs in between while we were doing other things fairly easily. And you keep hearing in the media, oh, there's an abundance of jobs. No one wants to work. But then you start talking to people, you start looking at the actual statistics, and it's all gig work, temporary work, and you can't even really get those. Everyone wants, overqualified is such an excuse. Yeah, it is. And why are they saying things like, what kind of career do you want at Applebee's? Like, what kind of career do you want? I'm like, it's Applebee's. What the hell are you talking about? I mean, that's a dishwasher position. Like,
I know, really. It's like I just really love washing dishes, and I love having raisin fingers. You know, I don't know, like what do
my life? You know,
it's like I don't necessarily know that this is my forever job. Let me try it out, okay? Can I just have the job? Like, and then like if you have something like a disability or you have like extenuating circumstances, like I don't know how your transportation is there, but like where we are in Connecticut, like I wanted to say, Becca C, thank you for the super sticker. We appreciate that. It like, you know, like the transportation here like sucks. It doesn't run on holidays. It doesn't run like it like stops at like 7 or something on Sunday, like our public transportation, and it sucks. Like it's not on time. It's, you know, like the schedule, like it doesn't, the buses don't go to a bunch of places. Like I know in bigger cities and stuff, it's easier to catch public transportation, but like if you have a limitation like that, then it just puts even more job constraints on you. You know what I mean? And like, I mean, like, luckily I have a vehicle, but you know, not everybody does. Not everybody has that same, like, you know, that level. Not everybody's even, you know, gotten their license just because they're an adult, you know? So there's just so many factors. And then if you have a disability on top of it or something like that, then like, you're overlooked. You're not like gonna, they want like the perfect candidate, and I get that, you know what I mean? You want the perfect person to work for you, but I mean, it just disqualifies a lot of people. And you know, if it's a corporate job, you know, a corporation that you're working for, I mean, sometimes like when my daughter was applying for different jobs, she was looking at them, I think it was Big Lots, they're part of their application, and most people don't read all the fine print in that. If you get hired, they could actually look at your online activity, like what internet searches you did and stuff like that. Yeah, there's all kinds of privacy concerns that they write it into the hiring process, like into the application.
You're at Big Lots, and it's like what you say on Twitter, you know, can get you fired if
directly reflects your employment.
That's insane.
Yeah,
well,
and
that's the goal, isn't it? And they want the people who have the power want you to, and certainly in this country, that it be that your health care is attached to your employment, your social media input is all attached to it. Like all of it is all connected in one thing. They're like, we'll give you a score on how crappy a person you are or how nice you are on Facebook.
It's that credit score.
So sick.
And there are other companies, like there's nonprofits and companies and stuff that will post jobs, but the thing is there's a large percentage, and I don't want to misquote the percentage, but I was reading, and it was right around 50 to 60%, but I can't remember the exact number. But of those jobs, they're just posting out of requirements through their HR, but they already have someone internally picked. So you're applying and you're applying and you're applying, and they already have that role essentially filled. They're just posting it because it's their HR protocols, right? They're anti-discrimination, like fair labor practices protocols. Mm-hmm. So here you are, you're applying in like 50% of those places that you're applying to. And then some places, they have you do those crazy tests on Indeed. They have you do like all this stuff. There was several jobs that I interviewed for, and I'm telling you, some of them, it was like a 5 or 6 or 7 set interview process.
Jeez.
So for one, I remember it was 2.5 months And I got down to the last two in several of these, and then I didn't get the job. And then I find out, sometimes they would post like who their new person was or whatever. And it would be like someone who, went to an Ivy League school, is part of the circle and the establishment. I was like, God dang it, man. I mean, they're a lot younger than me. They don't have as much experience, but they're getting in because of their, Ivy League background or the college that they went to. And it's very frustrating.
Nepotism,
I
man.
did all that work to get my resume like this. Like, I did all these internships. I did all this extra work. I was working 90 hours a week for like 8 years to get to this point. But even with that, somebody from Stanford would trump me in a lot of application processes every single time.
Yeah, because certain things will weigh heavier on them. And if it's their, if it's their school, or if it's their, they know someone from that, or it feels more prestigious, like that, then they'll pick that person. And
or
it's
they're
ridiculous.
not a parent, or they carry themselves, I think I don't know how to carry myself like the upper class or whatever carries themselves. I don't know how.
We're not. It's not in our breeding. Like, we're just not those people.
And I think that's like sniffed out, and I can't fake it. Like, I've tried to fake it so I could get work, but people hire their own from their own class, their own circle, especially in like public relations, marketing, the kind of work that I do, and they'll hire people from their own. And I've seen it happen. So I know it happens, and it's common. And so like, they'll like you, they'll talk to you for a while. But then if someone comes along that kind of matches more of that, looks more professional or just comes across that way. And like I said, I've tried. I can't even fake it. Like, I don't even know how to fake it. And I get done with an interview and I'm like, oh. And I used to be great at them, Lucky. Like, I used to like crush them, and now it's just a different world out there, I think.
I think so too. And then and I've worked in like, I worked I worked at a homeless shelter. And so I worked with the families that were, in poverty, that were, like living, like paycheck to paycheck. And I worked there, and I still qualified for like food stamps because they didn't even pay enough money for the per diem job that I had at first, that I couldn't even, it wasn't even enough for me. Like, as a single parent, to be able to pay for childcare, to be able to pay for, like I live a very minimal life. Like, I don't do a bunch of big fancy things. I wasn't going out to eat all the time,
Right.
like I was just trying to cover daycare and, my food expenses, my shelter, my transportation and all of that. And I still qualified to get assistance. It's like, this is a job that I'm working where I am a paycheck away from being where the people I'm trying to help are. And not all those social service agencies are always like a good place to work for. Like, it was very much that same, like, kind of like what you're describing, you know what I mean? Like, they all kind of, like, there was a clique within the people that worked in the rest of the building and stuff, like very cliquish. Like, the shelter was seen as like the, like the lowest rung of the whole thing. And I'm like, well, I think that this is, like, this is where I want to be, because this is where I want to work with the people. I want to work with the kids, and but like there's just always these office politics.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's like, and just because it's a like a a place that's helping people, or a nonprofit or whatever, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're even gonna give people enough to like survive. It's not like, what I mean, they're just like totally different.
They're some of the worst because they operate on malevolency or benevolency. And so it's this idea that we're good, we're doing the good work, and you should sacrifice everything. But you look at people that are telling you that they're driving nice cars, they have 3-level homes, they make $150K a year, but they're telling you to sacrifice, who is basically in the same boat as the same people that you're trying to help, like you said. And I have seen that over and over and over again. And the people that they move up into like the upper echelon positions are people that have, are from the more prosperous backgrounds. And it is still a form of gatekeeping that's, all over the place. It's bad within the political parties, but especially within like the Democratic Party and like those people, they're major elitist. We were talking about this the other day. If you look at like the political pundits who are like popular out there now, like almost all of them, even like the indie lefty ones, their parents are like famous people from the DC Beltway who are millionaires. Yep. No joke. Like almost all of them from, some of your favorites out there that you can think of. If you look up who their parents are, they're supposed to be the cutting edge. You'll find out DC connections, millionaires. That's who they are. And then you've also got the same.
Yeah, like they're really not. If they fall back,
grandpa was a Vanderbilt, for instance. Like,
yeah, like if they hit a bad patch, they're not going to end up in in a shelter. Okay, these guys, these families, you know what I mean? Like a lot of the people in indie left media are just part of a system. They're just a lower tier of that system, right? Like they're still like, they're like me when I worked at the shelter and I was like, I was part of that, but like, like the parents that as it went up, like they had it, they had the bigger degrees and the things to back them. It's the same thing as these people as their parents, like, and their families. It's really crazy because just because somebody's saying the right things doesn't mean that they necessarily like live that or that they completely understand it.
And you'll know it's out of touch because you can ask one specific question, brings it forward every time. Ask them about generational poverty.
Mm-hmm.
When you ask them about generational poverty, there's a defensiveness, and there's also this thing that happens where they'll start talking about how class traders are the most important because they have a choice and yet they're still deciding they're the true heroes, and it's like, what are you talking about? Like, they don't have to fight. And I swear to you, every single time, I hate to say this, but it's true. Like, I had a discussion similar to this with like Brianna Joy Gray, for instance, on her call-in one night. And it was like, she was really defensive about, her background and stuff. And, I was talking to her and somehow it cut out though. It's like at the end of the show, like my portion cut out and the call dropped, but, was asking her about that. And it wasn't to attack her at all. But it is out of touch. Like, generational poverty is one of those things that if you start talking to oftentimes the leaders of these PACs or nonprofits or these people who do punditry, and you start asking about generational wealth and generational poverty, that's when they kind of get stuck. And you'll realize that when they're talking about poverty and they're talking about poor people, they're talking about it 3 steps removed. So it's like the poor people, those poor people. But you can tell the difference when you're talking to someone who is from poverty, like me from Appalachia, grew up in poverty my whole life. Like, we'll say we're hurting, when we're in poverty, when our people's in poverty, when you can't pay your bills and when you can't, it's like, and so we get really abstract and are always looking at like the big, huge picture of it. Right. But they're rarely ever talk about tabletop issues like you were talking about a moment ago. Like, they don't, like, you can mention something like, childcare poverty is the worst. And they're like, what's childcare poor?
Yeah, they don't understand what that means. They don't understand that, like, I used to work where I was taking so much of my paycheck and it was literally I was paying to work. Like, it was such a high amount. And, and I raised I got child support from my daughter's dad, like growing, like with her growing up, but I never went after him and raised it. I never was like, and there were times where he was supposed to help me like pay for half the daycare and he wasn't. So that fell on me. because it was me, it was my name. I was the primary residence. I always was. So, like that fell back on me. That didn't fall on him. It doesn't affect his, like, his credit. It doesn't make, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like he's the one who's suffering. It's the primary parent that suffers for that. And like, like there used to be, programs to help you with that, but a lot of times, like, the hoops again to jump through to get help so that you could just work was a lot. And then if you think about how much a daycare is, or how much you're going to pay a daycare provider compared to what the minimum wage is, like, you really are, you know what I mean? Like it can really eat up like a lot of what your income is. Really quickly. And so when I talk about these things, it's because I'm talking about them from like actual lived experience and like feeling the pressure. Even working at a place like the shelter, when like school was canceled or there was like snow and I had my daughter and she was young, I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Like, I don't have, everyone, like, not everyone has family. Like, not everybody has people they can just like call up and rely on. And, like, I don't have any living family in the state that I'm in. My closest family is like Maryland and like Virginia, and then, like West Coast. And even if I did have family right here, that doesn't mean that I have family that would necessarily be able to do that, but like, it's always like, oh, well, don't you have family? Don't you have, I mean, it's like, no, it doesn't necessarily work that way for everybody. It's not across the board. And I think people forget that.
Statistic for you that kind of details this. 32.7% of single mothers are below the poverty line. Now, let's keep in mind that the poverty line is $19,000 right now for an individual. So that's like way below what the poverty line, literally adjusted for inflation, should be around $32,000. But the poverty line right now is only $19,000. And so it's inaccurate. It's been the same as it has been since the 80s. So it's wrong.
Yeah.
But if you adjust for inflation, almost 70% of single mothers live below the poverty line. Now, if you adjust that to single fathers, 15.5% and 22% adjusted for inflation live below the poverty line. So it's 70% compared to 20%. Single fathers, single mothers. That's the disparity. Also, only 5.4% of married couples with children or two-parent households live below the poverty line. So single mothers struggle the most, 70% below the poverty line. And that's not always a freaking choice. We can't go out and say, oh, I'd love to have a 2-person income in my household. I'm going to go find somebody who wants to marry me. It's not a freaking choice.
When you're struggling,
a relationship, something happens to your partner, all kinds of different things can happen. And so, it's almost a punishment. It is a punishment on to, women, specifically women that are in these situations. And we used to give a shit about that. When I was young, we used to talk about supporting single mothers. It wasn't demonized, but now it is. And these policies are literally pushed in order to push us toward marriage. But again, marriage isn't a choice. And dating when you're a single mom is damn near impossible.
Oh, it was awful. It was awful. Like, oh my gosh.
We want to be careful with who you bring into your child's life. And it can get you stuck in abusive relationships. But the 70% making below $30,000 a year is insane. How are people living? Like, how are kids eating? How are they getting health care? And if you're making more than $19,000 a year, you're not eligible for any food stamps. You're not eligible for any kind of Medicaid. It's crazy. $1,000 a month for a 2-bedroom apartment, some places anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000 is pretty much average right now in the country. How do you live? How do you get a full-time job that works around your kid's school schedule? How do you do this? And so many are going homeless. So the numbers of kids that are homeless, a large percentage of the children that are homeless are from single mother households.
And that's generational too.
We're against abortion. That's why. And I was like, okay, so forced births makes more like.
It doesn't. And like from working at the shelter, I learned a lot of things. I don't have the updated statistics, so I'm not going to quote any statistics, but it's a high reoccurrent level. If you are houseless as a child, if you are homeless at any point in time, that it's more likely that you will be as an adult, like that is going to repeat in your life because it's generational. It kind of like it's generational like trauma and effects that happen because it's really hard to get out of a place of when you're in, you know what I mean? Like you're in poverty.
Yeah, it's 20%. But the numbers could be higher, but that's so far what they could track is 20 to 25% of people that were homeless during their childhood are also homeless as adults. That's a lot.
Yeah. Like we're failing children, like in every aspect, it feels like. And I feel like the level of like the grit, the poverty, you know what I mean? Because like when we talk about homeless people, we're talking about children too, and like, but the meat of it, the people that are in the most desperate places and that are living in the poverty, like we're often not spoken about. We're looked over. Like people want to step over people. They don't want to, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh no, that's the ugly. I can't look, if I don't see it, then, I don't have to talk about it. I don't have to worry about it. And yet the people then like this generational wealth just keeps building and building and building, and the poor we're just adding more people that are poor and more people that are poor.
Yeah, because one hiccup can completely like screw you over.
One thing, if you have a vehicle, you get a flat tire, and then you realize, oh, I got to replace 2 tires because they're both at the front or whatever it is. Like that right there, that little hiccup, even if you're going on your own little path and you're doing okay, one little thing can turn into a really big thing. So it's like you're always kind of like at the edge of your seat. You don't know if like the next big emergency is going to happen, and are you going to be able to recover from it? Like I was houseless without, with my daughter when she was younger. And that's why I ended up going back to work at the homeless shelter, is because I stayed there for a few months with my daughter. So I was like, you know what? It was really scary for kids to be here. I remember how it felt to walk in there that first time, because it's an old, it's closed now, but it was doctors and nurses quarters from, what year do you think it was, Steve? It was like, it was up by it was like by the cancer ward and the tuberculosis and ward and all that. But like, it was really industrial, old and like inside. And it was just, I remember walking in and going like, oh my God, like, you know what I mean? Like it felt really scary. So I went back there to volunteer and then eventually got a job there because I wanted to make kids feel more comfortable. So like I did art and stuff with the kids. And
you meant institutional.
That's nice.
Oh, and institutional. Yeah. It felt institutional. Even the colors, like we ended up painting like all the walls there and like doing upgrades. And I painted murals and painted, everyone had like, there was like different rooms for everybody, but sometimes like it was like there was a split room with families. But because all the rooms were just these heavy metal fire doors that were so loud, they slammed, oh my gosh. And it was just, so I painted them all to look like different house doors. I'll have to find pictures of them and show everybody one night. But I painted them all to look like different house doors and like added like textured paint and like, you know, use like special textured paints and like ones that had like almost like sand or whatever in them, so like the kids, if they touched it, they knew, like, and they could identify what door was theirs and where, you know, each person like belonged while they were there. Because it was like I'm seeing these little kids and they have no idea, like it just all looks the same. So I mean, like, I did what I could during that time, but like it was, you know, it was a lot. It was a lot to work in that environment, to see people in such despair and like wanting to help and like really not being any better off than they were, you know what I mean? Because most of them had jobs, most of the people, you know, and there were a few single dads there, but and there were some families, because we were a family shelter. So like the whole family could come. Whatever your family makeup was, you could come. Like we had same-sex couples that were there and stuff like that. But for the most part, it was mostly single moms. But you had to have children. Like that was our, you know, like that was part of our funding, and like the way that our shelter was set up is that it was for families. You had to at least have a child under 18.
Gotta had a baby.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, like they've closed that now, and they found that they try to do a it's like rapid rehousing, where they just have funds and money that they put in, and they put people like up in a hotel if they have to temporarily, and then they try to do like just get them directly into housing, and they work with landlords.
When you said that, I immediately thought of something entirely different, where it was just like there was a bunch of, you know, renovated buses or something that you had to like jump on it as it went by really fast. It was rapidly.
No, yeah, I don't
be contests. You know, I mean, we could train.
No,
it's a good idea, solid idea.
But I mean, like even like trying to get back and work in a place like that, I was still living like, you know, at a level where I wasn't very far off from, you know, like needing the assistance that we provided there. Yeah. Like it was really hard. It was really, really hard.
There's such few housing assistants now. I mean, they're not building anything new. A lot of housing that was housing has now shifted to being privately owned. So I have noticed that some of the newer ones they built that were built in the early 2000s are now privately owned and being renovated, and are no longer part of any kind of like HUD or Section 8. People will go on waiting list for a year or 2 years. I looked here because we're place.
Section 8 is like closed for the most part here. Like it's like 8 to 10 year waiting list. Like it's bad. It's really bad.
People just don't care. And then like tiny homes, you know, tiny homes was like something that poor people were like, maybe we could do this. And then now they're all bougie because of, you know, rich ass wine moms think it's cool. Let's sell our property, buy a tiny home, and then we can spend our $120,000 we make a year traveling to Europe. Well, that's great for you. I'm happy for you.
Or they rent it out
because of that.
Yeah, they buy a fucking fleet of them.
They do the B&Bs too. Like they or the whatever the Airbnb, yeah. So that's another thing. They buy tiny homes and then they're just making them rental property and income property too. So like they're doing that aspect of it too. And it's like, oh, well, that's really cool. That's great. But like maybe people shouldn't have second homes if people don't have first homes. You know, like maybe
we can pump the brake on the
yeah, like maybe
the people like that are like, well, tiny homes are the way of the future. You know, they're cool. You got to make a little sustainable house that you can move around, and we can have fleets of them, that stay in the desert all summer and live rent free, and this whole movement, right? Which is wonderful. So now all those kids that didn't get any kind of help from their parents generationally, because they're all paying for their college and they never got out of their own debt, so they didn't leave anything to anybody. You know what I mean? Like, there's this cycle that just keeps happening that makes it like now it's okay for all those younger millennial kids to, that's their goal, is to get a tiny house to live off the grid so that they can save enough money to fucking pay back their fucking student loans or whatever. It's just like this endless
it's kind of sad. I mean, the tiny homes are kind of cool, but also at the same time, it's like, okay, so relegated to 200 square feet of living space, and that's,
it's not.
But even then, when they're being sold at like $100,000 a piece, which Walmart is now offering.
Yes, Walmart is selling them. I covered that the other day. I was like, Walmart is selling $100,000 tiny homes to people. And they're really not like that great. Like, they're looking at it like setup wise and everything. I'm like, it really, they didn't really utilize the space the best way that they could have. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I was like, I'll take a double wide, man, over that. Like, give me a double wide any day. I'll take myself a little double wide trailer, put it on a lot over $100,000 Walmart tiny home.
Yeah, I like the Snow Leopard brought up the container homes. I think those are really cool. I like the Earthship homes, but even those have become like kind of bougie and stuff too.
They're super expensive to make. That's why it's bougie in the first place.
Yeah,
you need a fucking army to make the tire wall, to make the initial thing, and then you need all this crazy money to like do all this.
You would need like
stuff.
A whole community to like
engineers helpful as well.
So you would need like a whole
do stuff.
Yeah, but you need like a whole community of people that would like not just like, give up after their home was built, but like everybody, you know what I mean, kind of like works together. And if we all had a collective and we all had land and very intentional, then it could be a different thing. But like, yeah, other than that, it's like, and then people just can't even afford to buy land. I mean, like, you have to have land to live on in this country, and then they regulate what you can and cannot do on that land. So it's like you can't even just have land and be like, yeah, I'm gonna live, I'm gonna build my own home out here, and I'm just gonna, like, no, there's all kinds of regulations, there's rules, there's
an RV until I can build my home, on my own property. You can't do that in a lot of places.
No, a lot of places you can't. Other places are wide open though. Like, you can come and build your fucking, yurt out of toilet paper. We don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? Just put up something and live in it, and until your actual structure is there and stuff.
You see this?
Certain areas, Montana's like wide open.
Snork said many states require 20 to 30,000 for toilet hookup.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Just to have water is like such a fundamental thing that you know what I mean? You have to figure that into whatever you're doing. Like, if you're going to purchase a piece of land, make sure there's a source of fresh water on it or under it or whatever. You know what I mean? You have access to it, because it's silly not to settle for something that doesn't. Because ultimately, if the shit fucking happens and you want a space where you're safe and you can sustain yourself and your family, it has to have some fundamental basic things like water. And
I mean, but when you're living in poverty, like, it's like, how do you even get to the point where you're like, yeah, I can go and buy a home or something? Because most of the time,
I can fix my credit score in 20 years.
Yeah, get it all sorted out, and then when you're like 70, you could probably get enough money to rent a tent for a while, and then you can get that sucker done right before you die. It's like they build the system perfectly.
I'm starting to think about, how do we think outside of the box, right? Told about this traditional model, which can work, but if you have, my credit score is not great right now because I was hospitalized for stroke about a year and a half ago, and There's $90,000 in medical bills, and it's not supposed to impact your credit, but it has. And then after I was out of work, I finally had a good credit score, and now it's not so much anymore. And just like that, years to build it up, and just like that, boom, gone. I cried my eyes out. Like, I was devastated because of this, because I couldn't do anything about it. It's not something that I could change or do something about. And I wanted to, but it was literally out of my hands. And if you can do, there's got to be ways outside of the box. One of the things I was thinking about was looking for grants for like farming, to build like a sustainable farm. Is there something like that? Is there, I know that there's like rural housing loans and stuff that you can still get with a lower interest rate. But if you're low on there, you still got to have like 10, 20, 30,000 down payment. So you got to figure out how to get that down payment in order to be able to do that. So there are ways, but I feel like we really have to think outside of the box and do that. One of the things about being poor is that I've noticed something different. There's a completely different language between people that have money and grew up having money and their families have money, and how they talk about entrepreneurship. They talk about like opportunities in a completely different way than like what I grew up in Appalachia, in the way that we were taught. We were taught, get a good job with benefits, get a good job at a place that you can stay for a long time, work really hard, and those people will give you more. And that is true with some jobs. If you get really lucky, you can get a place that's halfway decent, make decent money, and then, move up and be able to secure those things. But those are becoming more and more rare, right?
Well, they used to come with pensions, though. Like, jobs used to come with benefits and pensions. They used to actually be something that you could sustain your family on.
401ks, which aren't really offered anymore. So if you were grandfathered in around 2008, 9, maybe, most companies have now dropped that for new hires. It's not a thing anymore. And almost all. There's some jobs out there, but statistically, and I just looked this up on the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, it's only 6% of jobs now in the United States offer any kind of benefits. 6%.
That's crazy. But that's always the answer, right?
Do not offer benefits any longer. Huh?
But it's always the answer that you go get a job that has those benefits, and that's how you pay for health insurance, right? But only 6% of them, and then like, what?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Well, there's a lot higher percentage that offer health care, but that's like the 401k retirement benefits and stuff. It's very, 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 very low number. And it's an even lower number that are unionized. Unionization has fallen to basically nothing in this country. There's also, the way that they would talk, though, the people that have the money, they would be like, you need to figure out a way to not have to work for the man. You got to sustain yourself, start yourself a business, like do this, and this, and become an entrepreneur, make sure that you incorporate your business properly, sell this. You can do anything, go to a good college and then, take over, become management. Then once you do that, start your own business. But it's a very entrepreneurial mindset with them. I've noticed every single time. It's like, it's this thing of, still work hard, but it's more of a start your own business, get out from under the foot, do this and this. When we're taught to, work hard and kiss ass and like work as hard as we can, work 90 hours a week if you have to, show how much you're worth to these companies, and they'll hire you, they'll move you up, and you'll be able to, save and don't spend anything. But I'll hear their parents say, or their family members, or them say, take what you have and invest it. Never hear that in Appalachia. Never hear that, in the poorer communities, or the communities that have kind of been sold the worker line, the worker bee line. It's almost like it's our caste. what we're supposed to do. And even if you start to get beyond that, if you go to college or, you try to venture toward that, it's like, why are you doing this? You know, it's impossible for you. You shouldn't be trying to start a business. You shouldn't be trying to do this. And that's sort of the attitude that it's given from our family and stuff, because it's like, it's just what we've been taught. It's not that they don't care or they don't want well for you. It's just, we've literally been taught, you get a good job. You don't, work for yourself. You don't build your own business. You get a good job that you can rely on. And so it's a completely different mindset. And I think that that's in part how they end up being more successful, is because they do more entrepreneurial things. They end up going and working for themselves. They start the businesses, they do the thing. And granted, they have some generational wealth to help them build that. But also, we're not even taught those tools in our schools. We're not even taught that from our families and from our communities, because we've been cultivated since we were young with this messaging of us being the worker bees.
Yeah, so it's been it's been like just basically ingrained into your brain that is your role and that's how you do it. And but the thing is that everything has changed. Everything that from the time that I'm 42, I'll be 43 in July, and when I was a kid, that kind of what you're saying was more it was more so ingrained into us too. And I lived all over, so from the down from the West Coast down south to all up the Eastern Seaboard, and it's just crazy because the advice, the things that did work for generations, the things that they always said to people, this is how you do it. It doesn't work like that anymore because things have spun so out of control, and the poverty becomes so generational. And then even if you do have parents that have that we're okay, that we're middle class or whatever, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have them to rely on. But some people do. Some people, it seems like the richer the parents, the more that they have, for them to rely on them. It's like, I don't have somebody to fall back on, if something goes wrong. I don't have I don't have parents that have millions of dollars or anything like that. It's just what are people expected to do? You know what I mean? So I think we need to, as the poor people, we need to figure out together how we can do mutual aid and support each other and do more barter. I mean, I think I wish that there was ways when I was struggling with daycare that I could have found other single moms and organized it where we could help each other out with babysitting or whatever. I did some of that, but it's just sometimes it feels like it's so much, especially when you're in the middle of it. When you're in the middle of things happening and you are just so focused, it's you don't even have the energy or the time. I was working at 1.2 jobs.
I've been there a bunch. Yeah.
And it was I don't have time to even sleep, let alone try to organize and get other people around, to come together and makes a system happen.
That's what makes it so hard, is that, we keep asking, we keep supporting. Already people are arguing over Marianne Williamson, RFK Jr., who's the next president, blah, blah. I'm I don't give a shit. I know that sounds awful, but I don't give a shit. And I'll tell you why. Because at the end of the day, it's not impacting my life whatsoever. I mean,
they don't care about us,
but I really don't give a shit. I don't care, Lucky. I don't care, because instead of us working to build together to solve some of these problems, helping each other find jobs, and that's more than, mutual aid. We look at it as we occasionally ask each other for money, right? And people will post like give to my whatever. That's not doing anything, because we have this saying in Appalachian, passing around the same 20.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all have heard that? Passing around the same. We're just passing around the same 20.
Here,
We're not building anything. If we want to fix it, we got to build it. We got to work around these assholes, and there are loopholes. We got to use their own game. We go out there, we incorporate shit. We go out there, we get 30 people together, buy a stretch of land, build our houses. Don't build an HOA. Build in a bunch of safety nets into the documents that we write. We legally incorporate it, and then we have our own fucking neighborhoods. We gotta find a way.
That's what I want to do so bad, is an intentional community.
Mm-hmm. And and when it comes to jobs, a co-op, like everyone get together, pool $200 a piece, start making Christmas ornaments, start making something, start making a product to sell, do something. And I know that we get in this mindset where it's like, I'm a Marxist. I'm not going to participate in the capitalist system. I'm going to live off the grid forever. And it's like, okay, yeah, that's great. But 90% of people saying this day ain't got no kids to feed. And that's a dream. The system exists. We can combat it. But the way that we have to right now is finding ways to fix the situations that we're in. We're not going to be doing it dirt poor and praying for a revolution and dreaming about guillotines and bloody revolution. That's goofy, and it's not going to help anybody, and it's a waste of time. And so
I agree. I think if everybody is invested in trying to come up with alt ways to accomplish the mutual aid that everyone needs,
yes,
and those things are in place, then that frees up a lot of other things to be able to happen. And being invested in voting, and I don't care if it's fucking local or whatever, I in a presidential election is just a joke in this country. It's just nonsense. It's a fucking writing a letter to Santa. That's it.
Local can make a difference, though, Steve, if it's things that you're trying to get off the ground like this I'm talking about.
I think
some people you
ultimately
can get in your way, and some people can open up pathways locally, right?
Yeah,
so,
no, I agree. I agree that that's how you have to approach like starting something that is like independent of a town or something, you know what I mean? But ultimately, all of these systems that we're relying on to help us fortify any ideas that we have are just with that are they, you know what I mean? There's a lot of them that are well thought out, really, really well articulated ideas. But fundamentally, all the things that we started with in this country were to assure that the money flow upward. And they've just been modifying that plan as they go the whole time. And until we address that for everyone, I can't put any faith in anything. Like, fuck, let it all fucking burn. I don't give a fuck. If that means that we're starving, well, I'll help fucking, till the field. You know what I mean? I don't know what it is. I've literally just decided that if my energy is working towards something that can like subvert this system and invent a new way to do stuff and a better way that's suited to everyone that needs it, then that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to rely on any of the old things.
That might take looking at the system and seeing where we can game it, take advantage of it, because
absolutely,
I bet you there's things out there, there's loopholes, there's things that we could take advantage of. Some of the things that the rich people take advantage of, we could probably take advantage of too. We just don't know about it.
And we have to know how. Yeah, I
agree.
We need to beat them at their own game. That is
the thing. Like that's the only way that we're going to ever have enough space to create the kind of options that I'm talking about and make a new way to do it. You know what I mean? You have to be able to game their system just to get a foothold. You know what I mean? It's just to work your way in it. If we can break it from the inside, it's like an impossible feat. But if everybody is working to be subversive against this thing to build another thing that's better, then that should be the fucking goal as far as I can see.
And we keep, and I was one of those people. I mean, I helped write the Green New Deal. I wrote the messaging for Medicare for All, and I still support those things,
Sure.
But it's like, that always leaves us begging someone who's a representative to do something for us. That's all we're doing. Begging, begging. Go out there. They love, I'll tell you what, politicians love for us to go out there and do rallies. Freaking love it. You know why? Because we can go out there, we can take our selfies, we can march, then we go home and they can show up and they can give their speeches and say that they support it, and then it's done. And people feel like they've done something.
Yep.
They feel like they've
It's that loop.
That's
loop.
it. And it never goes anywhere. Like, there are literally tens of thousands, no joke, go look it up, rallies and protests happening at DC every year.
Oh yeah, it's big business there. It's huge business. It is huge business having these rallies, all these events and everything like that. And like, there's a whole business model that is surrounded around DC because of it. And you're almost
and
like
their fees. They make so much up their fees.
Yeah.
Oh,
And then they're making money off of you. So like, you know, like it feeds that machine. Doing a rally in DC just feeds the DC machine.
The idea that being an activist is like part of the cycle that they want you to do. Like being outrageous and loud in the street and everything. They love that. That's the thing. You're invested now. You are invested. You give a fuck about what AOC said. You care about what Bernie Sanders is going to do. All of those things, right, become relevant to you if you are invested in that way, in that system. And I'm like, fuck all that. I am so done with it. I have been invested in that my whole life. And I've saw like amazing things happen from time to time, but all it does is assure the incrementalism doesn't change. It just gets shifted to the next, whatever the next thing is. You know what I mean? The incremental pace never falters. DC runs at 2 miles an hour and it ain't fucking speeding up for anybody unless you got billions of dollars to throw at it. Then they get amazing amounts of work done. And
yes,
that's
it's always the money. You always can follow the money because there's money in activism. There's money in circular talk on podcasts and big podcast channels that just, you know, they circularly talk
by these echoes. They just,
you know, and then you know, they have rallies and all that, and who does that feed? That feeds all those rental companies, and you know what I mean? Like, we need to be aware of where we are putting our money, even like, especially us that are living in poverty. We need to be aware of where, like, because we're voting every time. With our dollars, with our time, with our views, with our clicks, with our likes, whatever it is, that's how we're voting.
Yeah.
That vote matters.
That's what I mean.
More than other, you know, it's the intention behind it. It's, you know, like, so we have to remember, oh, if I do, you know, I mean, a $5 super chat, am I helping somebody? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not judging anybody on what they do with their money, you know what I mean? But like, is that where you want that to go? Is that what you want to feed? Are you feeding something that you support? You know what I mean? Like, we have to think about, you know, like the intention of like, am I spending money at a corporation? Because maybe I can, you know, buy from somebody that is, you know, that is struggling instead, and maybe pay a few dollars more. Maybe I can barter with somebody. Maybe, you know what I mean? Like, we need to start thinking outside of the options, the multiple choice options that we're given. You know, we need to be like, no, we're going to fill in the blank here and we're going to write our own path, and we're going to figure out a way to do it where we're not contributing as much to that system that is crushing us.
I think that's the only way we get around it, is if we everybody has that intention of, well, we have to use the system because it's the fucking system. But meanwhile, we can be planning this other thing, and we can make that grow and as that exponentially grows, it can replace systems.
Yeah.
And, you know,
we need to work on replacing them. I
it's
agree.
the only way I
And
see.
by using them the way that, you know, by using them in a creative way, or by like, you know, just figuring out ways to literally help people in as a community, we are doing that, because
Yes.
then that may push laws to change, that may push things to change, but that actually literally changes the material reality for people. Like, for instance, I'll give an example. When I was at Eastern Kentucky University going to college, I started covering, they had like this parent housing, you know, for parents and family housing. And this used to be all across campuses. Free parent housing was a whole thing in the 70s and 80s. Like, it was massive. And they had like full on like 2-bedroom apartments for people and stuff, like nice apartments. Some of them, you know, now have asbestos and stuff like that. So they've had to be like, or lead pipe. So a lot of them have become obsolete, but most campuses just bulldozed over them and was like, we're done. But EKU still had theirs up. So I started writing articles about like the living conditions there, and how it didn't really help families, and how we didn't have any childcare on campus. And eventually we ended up getting a group together of a bunch of people in different organizations in Richmond, Kentucky, and around that area, to push for what was called the Scholar House, which was free housing with a daycare center and a health clinic in it. And this got built after I graduated, but in 2016, you know, because I covered it as a journalist, I covered like how bad it was, you know, and it got into some national newspapers. So that was, you know, on the university. So there was some pressure there from a journalistic standpoint, but also, you know, bringing all those groups together. I worked with a lot of people, but I worked on this project with them. And I was really proud when I saw that 3 new buildings were built with a childcare center and a clinic, free.
That's amazing.
And it was called the Scholar House, and it's now on EKU's campus. So that was pressure. That was, what are we going to use state funds for? Why are we only using it on sports? Why aren't we supporting families? And it was bringing statistics forward. Like, there's this many families that are houseless in Kentucky. You know, it's one of the most impoverished areas in the country. And, you know, and people are coming here so that they can get, you know, jobs after the 2008 market crash and everything else. And so we ended up being able to pull together those groups and then be able to get the rest of the state funding and to build them. And it was something that was really cool. And I feel like there are ways that we can do stuff like that. You know, if we were like, screw federal funding and screw the system and to hell with it and screw college, nobody needs to go. And, you know, that places would have never been built. But like on-site clinic and childcare is pretty amazing. And
we need to make things expand. I think, you know, like we need to figure out ways like, how did that work? Let's look at how that worked, and let's use this as a really good let's support it, and let's use this as a really good example to expand this, and you know what I mean, keep it going. I think that's really important. I mean, I think that locally, if we did do things like, you know, if you get involved and you're like, all right, well, I feel like if we're going to plant trees, then they should be at least fruit trees, or, you know, like they should be a food there, you know, like we should have foods in our gardens, like gardens where people can actually, you know, just grab it if they need it. You know what I mean? Like, we need to change these things. Let's do this instead of this. Like, and we can make changes that way, and we can, you know, enact them small. But like, I feel like it's like, I mean, it just feels so overwhelming to try to even like get there. You know what I mean? It's like we've gone so down into the dumps that it's like, it feels like we're just not going to be able to get out of it. You know what I mean? Because it's just been so long that it's just people not doing enough as a society, just people just not doing enough, and letting, you know, these corporations and these people come in and just say, you know what, you're poor, so you matter less.
Well, you know, that's the fact of the matter. If they don't care about the ones that don't earn. You know what I mean? If you're not earner and then why should they bother with you? You know what I mean? You're just taking up space. You're just eating. You're just sucking from the teat of our beautiful capitalistic democracy shining beacon on the hill or whatever the fuck.
Can I address what Gray Walker said?
Yeah.
I kind of agree, Gray Walker, but you know what I'll also say? Being poor and impoverished is a minimalist lifestyle that isn't chosen.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't give a shit about us.
Yeah.
And we go through these sacrifices of, I have 2 pairs of blue jeans. They have holes in them. I don't buy clothes for myself. I buy them for my daughter. I've got I bought a lot at consignment stores and stuff. So I have a decent amount. I'm not saying I'm completely without, but I'm really careful. I have lived a fairly minimalist lifestyle. Other than I like to buy crafts and stuff. I finally bought my big screen TV for the first time ever a year ago, and I still feel guilty about that purchase. Still to this day, feel guilty about it. But when you're poor, the minimalist lifestyle isn't hitting at the system. The system is hitting at you. And I see where you're coming from. I totally do. And I'm not naysaying what you're saying because I get what you're getting at, not buying into the system, not playing into the system. But the thing is sometimes you need things in life. You need a bed. You need, to be able to have things to wash your hair and take care of yourself. And it's okay to want some things too. It's okay to want something nice in your life. That's a thing. That's materialistic a little bit. Poor people, we gaslight each other into being like, oh, you're a materialistic bad person if you want a hot tub. What the fuck not? Rich people get all kinds of crazy shit. They get yachts. They go, on European tours. They have, 2 and 3 houses. They've got massive vacation homes. They got people that come and do their hair and makeup. They got servants that do all this shit for them all the time. And here we're feeling guilty about wanting a hot tub in our backyard or wanting a trampoline for our kids. You know what I'm trying to get at? Or we're trying to tell ourselves that to be good people or good Marxists, we should buy a little tiny home and not participate in the system when you might not want to live in 300 square feet. You might have to be a kid. 300 square feet sounds like a nightmare to you. So relegating ourselves to these tiny boxes in this limited thing. It doesn't seem fair and it doesn't seem right that we should be the ones to have to make the sacrifices when there's so much excess over there that they could give a fuck if we spend money or not. Because if they cared that we spent money, they would have already fixed poverty. But they don't care. We're already minimalist. We're already poor. Somebody living in a tent on the street is already living a minimalist lifestyle, and they could care less. The system doesn't care about them. It doesn't impact the system because they're already living that way. Does that make any sense? I see where you're coming from. I really do. Not participating in it impacts it. But at the same time, poverty is the minimalistic system, and poverty is forced minimalism.
Yeah, it is. It is forced on us. Yeah, I get that too. But I get I think that what they're saying though, also it could mean vote, like I was saying before, voting with your dollars and, deciding, I'd rather have, this, just being careful and aware. And then I think that the one thing that really bothers me that I see a lot of is that, how we have this quick fashion that happens. You can go and get clothes at a department store and they're really, they're cheaply made, but it's more expensive if you want to go get fabric and actually make your own unique thing. It's always more. I do sewing and stuff and I'm constantly repairing clothes or trying to alter them if I get a hole in something or, whatever, and trying to extend the life of it. But it's also when you're poor, you can't really always afford the thing that's going to last longer. Also, so you end up spending more in the long run because if you get the cheaper shoes and you don't get the, you don't invest in good shoes, then you're spending more and you're being part of that kind of more the disposableness of society. Like if your vacuum breaks, a poor person is probably going to be like, well, let me at least see if I can take it apart and clean it and like see if I can repair it, compared to somebody who doesn't care. They're going to throw it away probably, even if it's
my last vacuum, I found it on the side of the road, like before this one. Like it was a Dyson, and I went home and I completely cleaned it up, and it worked wonderfully for years. And I loved that thing. It was so awesome.
Yeah, that's the best score. That's
I
what
know, right?
everybody used to do.
It used to be that way. It used to be repair shops. Like we have a vacuum repair shop in our town, but like is there a cobbler?
My dad was like the guy. What didn't matter what it was, he'd be like, "Oh, that's a good so and so. Go grab that," and we throw it in the truck and bring it home, and he'd fix it and he'd put it out like, "Hey, I got one of these," and somebody would trade him for something else, and it was like a way to just get things that you wanted. Like, Dad,
barter system.
I want one of those old stereos with the tubes in it. You know what I mean? I figured that out when I was like 12. He got me one of those old ones, console one with the TV in it and the tube amp on it. The thing was thunderous. It was ridiculously loud.
That's
so
awesome.
yeah.
So like those are ways that we can decide to live more of a minimal lifestyle, not involve ourselves into the capitalist system, by reusing stuff and doing that. But like it shouldn't be that that's all we can do. You know what I mean? Like it sometimes it feels like that's the only choice that you have when you're really poor is secondhand or is, like sometimes we want something that's new and shiny, and we deserve to have that too. It shouldn't always have to be.
I remember the last time I had an actual new mattress and bed to sleep on. It's been years and years and years.
I don't even know. Yeah, like the mattress I have is from my friend. It's a Tempur-Pedic, but it was a hand-me-down.
Yeah, that's one of my dreams is I'll have a mat. It's something that simple. But I understand what Gray Walker is saying. I don't want more than I need. I share what I have. And maybe that's the best way to spend is to spend at the farmer's market, spend. And I don't always do. I mean, I order from Amazon and stuff sometimes when I need something, especially when I lived in a rural area, because that's about the only place I could go to get it. That's
sometimes there isn't like a store that you can even travel to go get something, like you have to order it from like a corporation or online or something. Like we just have to be gentle with ourselves and not hold ourselves to such an extreme, where we can't, we have like a chokehold on ourselves, but like just try to be aware and do it consciously.
I think that's a weird thing that we were just talking about, like ground scoring a good vacuum, that's on the side of the road or whatever. Like that idea. Even poor people, even in the little neighborhood we live in and the housing that we live in, every couple weeks or something, somebody will have like a lawn mower that's out by the dumpster or some like car seat that probably cost somebody $400 to get in the first place.
Those kid toys things, like the things that they go in
like,
and they
it like still has plenty of value. Like, why didn't you just take that to Goodwill so some other poor person could use it? It's just,
they put it out for free.
Is just
we just
disposable. The entire culture is just like, whatever. We'll just get some new ones.
Well, if you go through like Navy housing, especially or even like the college towns, like about this time of year, like there's just they in the Navy housing, they just throw stuff out like all over the place. Like they just throw it out. Rich neighborhoods, they just put it out to the side of the road and people will come and get it.
Dorms,
the dorms, as they're emptying out, you can go to a lot of these college dorms and they'll have dumpsters and they'll just have it full of like stuff. These college kids just
fraternity buildings and stuff, just like, oh, we had this furniture for 4 years, now we're gonna get some new stuff, and they just get rid of all this stuff. Like
they don't want to take it back with them.
Being 20 and working for the people, the crew that did around here in New England, where we would just get all of that stuff, all of this prefab beds and dressers and nightstands and all these things to outfit all these dorm rooms and go assemble them. And you know what I mean? We did that on the road you go out for a week or whatever and come back. And I outfitted my entire apartment with all pieces that were being chucked, that were being thrown out. Like nice.
I did that too when I first started college. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the best thing. Like, why can't we just like people learn to recycle things properly? Like, I see it every day. I drive down the street. I'm like, really? You're just throw away all that stuff? Like, there are absolutely many things in that pile of stuff that,
and like we can't take it all in.
I don't.
You know what I
place to
mean?
put
Like
anything.
we don't have anywhere to like.
I'd be building go-karts by now if I had. You know what I mean? I was collecting lawnmowers and building go-karts.
Like we could fill warehouses with this stuff. Like, you know what I mean? Can you imagine if we had a free store, a community free store, and like we had people that knew how to repair things, and we knew how, you know what I mean? Like people that like volunteered their time to clean things, and you know what I mean? Like, oh, well, you know, like there's certain like, you know, toy sets, like when it's missing a couple pieces, it's like it's suddenly, you know, someone else has got one that's also missing pieces. You know what I mean? Like you put them together and you have that. But like, the mindset isn't a recycling economy. It's a very disposable economy.
Kids just throw stuff away. Like, oh, you know, this Xbox is not working, and throw it away. My buddy Jack used to like fix laptops and things for people. People would be like, oh, this laptop's broken. I'm just gonna go get another one. Here, you want this one? And like he would just make so much money just making laptops run better and putting Windows back on them or something for somebody. And like, you know, somebody would be like, oh, I'll give you $200 for that one. I'll give you $100 for that one. And he would just always have laptops, and he like never had to buy them. He would fix somebody else's computer and they would already have one that was old that they didn't want anymore. And it just was like this cycle
and
that just kept going. I'm like, dude, you should just open a store of computer stuff, like your secondhand computers. Like, you could be like the George Sanford of fucking computers, bro.
And that's how we can do mutual aid, right? Like if there's somebody that's really good at a particular thing, then like that's where you could kind of do community mutual aid. Like the people in my neighborhood and like friends of mine, they know like that I sew and I do a lot of creative stuff or whatever. So like if they need something or they need something sewn or repaired, or like I made curtains for a neighbor, you know what I mean? Like we just, you know, that's a mutual aid too. It's just helping each other out with the things that we do know. Like imagine if we use the community barter system. Like, oh, you're having issues with your vehicle. Well, you know, we have somebody that does that. You know, like, and we need it where nobody would feel taken advantage of, and you know what I mean. But like, that's where intentional community, you can kind of do those things. And if you have people from different backgrounds and that have different skills, and then you teach each other on top of it, like that's a amazing way to like really, you know, not only get stuff, you know, done and do it outside of that system, you know, like, and learn, you know, it's beneficial.
Get a grant for a farm. I had this idea a few months ago, and I started kind of looking into if it would be possible or not. But I wanted to get a grant for a farm where people could come and learn how to plant. So you would have like patches, you know, where you would grow different times, and then they can come and learn how to plant, you know, tomatoes. They could come and learn how to plant, you know, all kinds of different things. They could learn how to treat the seeds. They can come when the seeds fall, but then we would also we would do videos and post them on YouTube, you know, to walk people through all of these. And then they could also come and they would be like a bigger kitchen area, you know, and maybe like a metal building or something would have like a kitchen. And in the kitchen, it would be just a simple canning kitchen. So you could have people bring their canners in. You could show them how they work. You could have people donate canners, and then you could take it up to the municipality, have the canners checked out to make sure that they work, things like that, so that you have a whole system of, you could have people bring in and donate glass jars, so canning jars. So if people are cleaning out their homes or they're no longer canning and they have an excess of jars, they could donate it to the farm. So then you could go and give like cans to other people who are growing. But then also on the farm, people brought their wood, or you could have wood that was donated, and you could build garden boxes for people or help them build garden boxes for themselves so that they could take them home and then have like above ground gardens as well. And because we're losing the art of, I don't give a shit about us working class, it's true. We're losing the art of being able to plant and grow. My mom is brilliant at it. So I was like, Mom, we need your skills. Like in our generations need your skills to learn how to do this so that we can sustain ourselves. So that was an idea that I had, and I may look into that again because I just thought that would be the most awesome life.
What state were you thinking?
It would be really cool, and maybe there's some kind of grant out there I could apply for, to be able to get this farm and live on it, or there are some places that I could get like grant money from in order to be able to have a down payment to pay it. But
what region of the country you're thinking of? Around Kentucky?
Appalachia, yeah. Southeastern Kentucky.
Right on.
That's awesome. It would be really awesome to do that. I wish we could do it like all in coordination with each other. Like all, you know what I mean? Like we could have different areas doing it, and like, because there is so many people that would join something, right? People aren't always willing.
That we should do, Lucky. Maybe seriously, if anyone wants to get together, Z, if you're listening to this one, because we were just talking about what could you do, then maybe there's like a foundation that we could build or something like that, where we could start something like this, and then you could even have spaces potentially, depending on the size that you get, where people can bring their tiny homes or their mobile homes and live not under HOA, fees and everything, with very limited, restrictions. Of course, there would be like safety, and we would need to screen people for that kind of thing. But it would be, a lot easier than having to get, to go and try to find a little piece of land to live on, because that's almost impossible. And then we can all work, the farms and do the trainings and all of that kind of stuff. So I don't know. That's a little hippy dippy, I know. But people do need to learn how to grow things. People are starting to want to grow their own gardens. If you had a large chicken house, you could have like an egg farm too, where you could sell your eggs. So you could have like a very basic small farm where you could teach people things like keeping chickens, keeping rabbits, and growing like produce and stuff. You can even teach them the basics of fishing, and have people come in, and you could teach them how to do things like my mom does water barrels to irrigate her property. So you can have people come in and learn how to do water barrel irrigation, all kinds of things like that.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at. I wanted to do like an intentional community for a long time, and the one thing that I always found was like if you look up intentional communities like on even like YouTube or whatever, you'll find some really cool stuff on there, guys. Like we've looked into it a bunch of times. There's ones like out in Oregon, and like they don't even like have like inside like plumbing that they use at some of them, and they use like these certain tanks and everything like that, but they have like an apartment building with like and they collect their rain, and they do like they have the whole yard is like basically a garden, and everybody like helps out, and like we can have that as people. We could have that. We just have to decide that we're going to have it, and that we have to figure out like how and where we're going to do it.
A lot of people are looking in areas that are really difficult. Like they're looking up in places like New York or Maine, or they're looking at other places. They're not really looking in some of the places where you can find stuff that are affordable, that are more in the temperate zone, so you can actually grow things seasonally. Places like Tennessee, Kentucky, Georgia. Habu. Oh, what's that kitty's name? I don't think
this is Everett.
Oh, hi, Everett. Look at that face. He's like,
Mom,
slow me down.
Can't be bothered.
He's purring though. He's happy. He always looks like he's mad. He does. He always looks mad.
Bitch face.
Yeah, he has resting bitch face. Absolutely. You always look mad. You blowing kisses? Yeah.
He's pretty.
Yeah, he's a ham. But yeah, I mean, I think I've talked about this for a while and wanted to do this, and I think if we have enough people that really are like, let's do it, then I think if we start doing research and like figuring it out, that like there's other communities, other people that have done it.
There's people on TikTok doing it right now, same kind of thing where they're showing you like.
I mean, we could reach out to people that have already done it and figure it out.
There's a camp in Tennessee right now on TikTok doing it.
There's a camp in Tennessee, he said.
Yeah, Tennessee,
already
Georgia, Kentucky, those are some of the places where you would have the most luck. A lot of people are trying to do it in like the western states, actually, like Colorado and places like that. But to be honest, the regulations and stuff in those states make it really hard. And then there's some places like Montana and stuff that in smaller, they're giving away free land, but they have very restrictive HOA laws with those. So like I have found that the 3 states that you are probably some of your, in Arkansas you could, but you want to be somewhere that's temperate enough where you can grow things and then has a winter cycle and then a summer, you know what I mean? You need the seasons and you need to be able to grow, and you can't really afford, too far south. So that's why, and it's not just because I'm from Kentucky, but I kind of landed on either Kentucky, Tennessee, or Georgia is probably 3 of the best states, or potentially Ohio, Indiana, or Illinois are decent too. But Illinois and Indiana are more expensive land-wise. Like I was looking today and there's farms in Kentucky. I found a 50-acre farm that has a barn and a small house on it for $220,000.
Wow.
We can't even get a 3-bedroom house here for that.
Yeah. That is, that's crazy.
And there's a lot of places in Tennessee like that. And there's a lot of places in Georgia like that. So the states, where the opportunity is, some people are like, I never want to live in a red state like that. It's like, well, you got to look and see where it's at that's actually affordable. One of the problems is, though, where our towns are and our communities are, people are selling their homes from up north and out west, and they're coming here and they're buying up our decent homes for, cash. And then our people, we have to rent and we can't buy because our pay doesn't equal what it does. So they're kind of driving up like the housing prices of like our nicer homes.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's frustrating.
And like I feel like I wish we could have somebody that would like, that just like wanted to invest in community. You know what I mean? Like because when you're poor, it's like, yeah, that's a great price, but then you have to be able to have the credit. You have to be, you know what I mean? Like unless there's way, I don't know all the ins and outs and like how we could get around some of it. Maybe
I think I think that Kentucky sounds like an awesome place, and I've been there a bunch of times, and it's freaking beautiful. The only thing that freaks me out is the regularity and increasing regularity of twisters across the middle of the country right there, like just that section.
Always been. I've lived through like 5 of them.
It's
there's something everywhere.
More and more though, as things happen, as things progress, it's gonna get more and more too. So like,
true.
That's a factor.
And
but I love it for the
you're not in a
climate and
flood
everything.
zone,
it's nice.
That's a big one. Oh, go ahead, Steve. I'm sorry.
No. I love the that area, like West Virginia and Kentucky, like just the land itself is just amazing. It's just gorgeous there, really beautiful. A lot of different water sources and just cool places, caves and shit. Neat stuff.
Yeah, I mean, like there's going to be pros and cons for anywhere. You know what I mean? And then that's the thing too, is that if we get something like I've always wanted to do an intentional community where we did like Earthship type home things, and like what you were saying, like about the gardens, having people come there and volunteer. That's how we have people help build those. Is we actually do workshops, and we get the people to come and learn how to do it hands on, and they help us build it, and that's part of like the whole the whole system. That and like also I would want to make sure that we're not leaving anybody out, you know what I mean, just because somebody is disabled or they can't, like they don't have that same ability. Everybody has skills that can be used in an intentional community. I mean, like there is skills in every way that people can have, whether it's just being a companion, you know what I mean, to other people that just need a companion, or you know what I mean, someone to be with them, someone to talk with them, somebody to handle stuff online or whatever it is. If you're good at video editing, then we need, you know what I mean, because we'll do videos and try to like funnel it that way. And like we could have the nice things. We just have to figure out how we're going to do it and how it would work. And I think it would take a lot of really like a lot of research and a lot of communication with people to figure that
out. And I think that, it would be looking at a lot of different grants, I think, that you could apply for to be able to get started. Because one of the problems is that when we're asking for individual rich people to help, or people that individually have the money, they often have too much sway and impact. But if you're asking, there's so many grants out there and people don't apply for them, so they end up just sitting there. And it's just true. Like, people don't know how to grant write, they don't apply for it, and the money just, and then it's a tax write-off for those rich people. But sometimes grants have stipulations, but oftentimes you can get it. You can get grant funding, and rich people use these often, but when they're smaller grants that aren't really, they don't fool with them. But there's a farm bill grants, for instance, for educational farms, and for sustainable farms. There's America Seed Foundation. I've got a spreadsheet of about 120 different grant projects across the country that you can but you have to sit down, you have to write it. It's probably good to go ahead and have a package and everything together. So that's one of the things I was working on. And then just push it out. Ask for grants, and see if anyone will grant you the money to start it up.
Yeah,
I think that's a fine idea, and we should definitely explore that further, and maybe not during a live stream, but we certainly can get down to the brass tacks with that.
Well,
and see what's available.
Yeah, if anybody has
for anything, Steve, if somebody wanted to start up a domestic violence shelter in your hometown, for instance, you can try to apply for these grants. Pick a building in the town. Say, I think that this building would be great for a domestic violence shelter, and maybe it's up for sale, or maybe it needs renovated, and then just start applying for grants, and see if you get anything to be able to start that up. Yeah. So there's a lot you can fit almost anything that you want to be able to do into that model, where you can try to see if there's something out there to help you get it started.
My buddy that lives in Florida opened a art gallery here and that had teaching space or whatever, and got all kinds of money to open up a gallery. It was right downtown, right by like the others, like where Sky used to go.
Much stuff.
No.
Oh.
No. Different person.
Oh, well, there's a guy I went to high school with that had a art thing downtown.
He might have been partners with them.
Maybe.
This guy's from St. Petersburg, Florida. Anyhow,
but yeah, there definitely are ways to do it. It's just sometimes it feels so overwhelming to try to like even begin that process. And if you're not really sure, you know what I mean, like if that's not your background, it can be hard to, to know like where to start with that. So
I figured this way: before the poles flip over and the 100-mile an hour high waves wash over the earth again, we could try anything. All bets are off. Whatever it takes. Let's go. I'm here for it.
I mean, yeah, I'm not gonna just, I won't give up. Like, I will try and try and try, and I will, if I don't succeed, then I will die trying, because I won't give up on us hopefully having something that's better, better for generations to come, hopefully, and if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work, but at least I know I tried.
What kind of community were they called, Lucky? That you had a name for them?
Oh, intentional
communities.
Yeah.
Why do you call it that? That's the first time I've heard. I mean, I like it. I just why do you call it intentional community?
Because people come together with the intention of having that community. Like they are doing it. It's not like, okay, so like where I am now, like I live in a community, right? Like you live in a community, but is it an intentional community where you have an intentional goal, a common goal of working with each other? And it just kind of like it makes it where it's like, like your group is manifesting something. So I mean, you could almost kind of do that if people had the income where they could all buy houses in the same area. You know what I mean? Like you think about it, the rich are doing an intentional buy up of the properties everywhere. You know what I mean? Because they want to have
tons of intentional communities, man.
Absolutely. They've existed for fucking years and years, and they're very successful.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, if we put that intention out there where we have a goal as a community, and we purposefully our intention is to live in this cooperative, at least space, you know what I mean? Not necessarily on top of each other or in the same house, communal living, but in the same community and working together for a common goal.
Yeah. Get out of my yard.
I want a mom unity. I've always wanted a mom unity.
That's cool. I like it.
Just a whole bunch of single moms, and we're helping each other with our kids, and our kids can play together, and got a really nice park in the center, and people rely on each other, just for help taking the kids to school and whatever. And then we have different events where everyone can get together, and there'll be a community thing where we've got date night and everyone can kind of go out, and then 3 or 4 moms watch the kids, things like that. I thought would be super cool.
Yeah. I mean, and we can kind of have something like that, where it is just a barter system and a mutual aid for mothers too.
I think that's the idea of the intentional community. You go in it with all these intentions that you want to achieve these things, and you want to see if these things are possible. So you intend to prove whether they are or not. And I'm sure a lot of them are not, but a lot of them probably are, so.
I mean, I think that they could work.
Unless we try.
Yeah, we won't know unless we try to do it. That's exactly it. We can't say that something won't work. We don't know. I mean, if we try.
Are you volunteering, Salty? Because a mom unity is going to need a gardener and a plumber, and maybe more than one.
Thanks, Salty.
That's funny.
Salty's all inappropriate. He's like, I'll fix your pipes.
Yeah, he is totally inappropriate. He is. I fair warning.
I was all vanilla with that at first. I was like, oh, that's nice. And then I was like, wait a minute.
Double entendre. Son of a gun.
That was great. yeah, it's hard to like sometimes even want to put the energy forward, like to just even want to do it at this point. You know what I mean? Like sometimes it's like it feels like
Apathy,
fuck, like
this
whatever, like
thing,
you know,
if you
like
can achieve some kind of level of balance in your life where you're not like miserable all the fucking time and things are okay and you have some good days in a row and shit, you can pretty much put up with any goddamn thing. And that's what the system is designed to do, is to keep all of those people moving forward and just, you know, hey, it could be worse, right? So just go to work and shut up. That's it. Just get back.
I feel like that a lot of days.
Back down in the mine and smile, you know, because it could be worse.
oh my
Yes.
gosh, I totally forgot. I have the article that I I came across, and because we were going to talk about kids. So Rolling Stone put out an article. I wanted to get your take on this because it's about DeSantis and how they're not going to have children at the furry convention because of DeSantis's laws.
Like people are wanting kids at the furry convention.
They normally were.
It's kind of like this weird thing, but the adults action doesn't really go down and, you know, in the same spaces. So the article, it's really conflated. Like they're all like, oh no, DeSantis is going to make us, you know, whatever. And he's just saying like, you can't do that drag show and adult stuff around kids. It's like, it's so basic and like not a big fucking deal at all.
So yeah, okay. So it starts like this, and it says furries now have a serious beef. Oh my god, with Ron DeSantis, a furry fandom.com or FandomCon or whatever in Florida announced it would ban minors based on the governor's ridiculous laws. So I was like, what is happening? I'm like, you know, the furry thing, I mean, it's its own thing, you know.
I'm pretty sure I would run if I saw a 6-foot Tigger coming at me, man. You know what I'm saying? Like he's like,
That was appropriate. I didn't think kids went to these things. Like
I didn't either.
I thought that it was specifically not.
Yeah,
because that seems so exploitative. Why would you take a 5-year-old around people who like get aroused by wearing those kinds of costumes that kids are just drawn to innocently? You know what I mean? Like this is really strange.
And then some kids find them absolutely terrifying.
yeah,
Oh, for sure.
And those are probably the kids that grow up to like the furry thing, I bet.
because
Because it becomes a kink, I bet. I don't know. I wonder if I've never talked to somebody that did this, so like I want to like find somebody.
You need to really open yourself up to the furry community and somebody to come on and talk
I want to ask them, were you afraid of furries when you were a kid? Like, I just want to know that. So yeah, so Ron DeSantis has been passing these bills, and he passed the one about Disney. Like, so it says, okay. So Ron DeSantis has successfully sucked the pleasure out of many of life's little joys, from drag brunches to Disney adult TikTok. What? And thanks to the passage of SB 1438 or the Protect Children Act, DeSantis may not be bringing the axe down on furries. So this is the Megaplex in Orlando, which is where they were going to have the furry convention. The people who enjoy dressing up or making art. Oh my God. So they posted a statement saying that they were not going to allow children to go there if they were under, like, you couldn't be there if you were under 18.
Okay, that seems reasonable to me, though.
Yes, exactly.
Me too. Me too. You know what I mean? Like, not everything is for kids, and not everything should be like, you know what I mean? Like, kids necessarily be around. You know what I mean? So,
I mean, they have like full on, bone, and like,
yeah, they have anatomy.
And like doing sex acts and stuff. Like, those are the pictures that I've seen from conventions like this. Like, it's not. But I guess they're saying that they had 2 different spaces, one for children and one for adults, but that's still odd. It would be like, okay, if there's a porn convention and then people were like, oh, 18 and over, like, duh.
Yeah.
Of course. I don't understand what's happening here. I mean, is there like, it's very confusing.
So this is Rolling Stone. I mean, they've gone completely. They're completely propaganda. Like, now, like, they have been. So it's a crazy story. When I saw this, I was like,
it's just
what?
It's that knee-jerk politician thing trying to suck you into the cycle of,
like, hate DeSantis because he's not letting kids go to a furry convention.
Yeah, he is. That's the thing, is he is terrible in so many ways. Like, he is.
But he didn't stop them. He just said it can't be sexual stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, they're upset. They're like because it's inherently a sexual thing. They don't want to get these fines. So because it is inherently a sexual thing, and they kind of go on to kind of gloss over that in this part of the article. So they're like, so
are you telling me that Rolling Stone isn't a beacon of internal, of journalistic integrity? Because,
well, let's see what it says. It says
Thompson used to write for them,
So what does a law about exposing kids to sexually charged content have to do with people dressing as cartoon bunnies and foxes? Well, while SB 1438 does not specifically target minors dressing as furries, it prohibits children from attending adult performances, which it defines as a presentation that depicts or simulates nudity, sexual content, or specific sexual activities. And like drag, there are pervasive misconceptions that this mode of expression is inherently sexual.
Okay.
So, wait. Sexual conduct or specific sexual activities, there's a misconception? Like, how is there a misconception here of what you just said was sexual? Like, how do they do that? So then they go on to say, well, it's true that there is a segment of the furry dom, oh my God, that does treat it as a kink. It's not a representation of the wider community. And many furries, so there's a few kinky furries, okay? There's just a few. And many furries do not view their interests in, anthropomorphized creatures as asexual at all.
So then why would you call it a furries convention, since the furries has always been connected to sexuality?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't it be like cosplay or something like that? You know what I mean? Like
something milder. Yeah, absolutely.
And why would you still be incorporating like sexual acts later on in the night? And why would you still have kink booths and stuff? Like,
yeah, like there is actual, like, they're like, oh, we'll keep that part separate. It's like, well,
sorta. Not separate enough for 12-year-old could walk over and look at whatever.
I mean,
it's like Comic-Con, you know what I mean? It's not like it's all, you can't go into this area. So that's why they're all upset. I think I have a theory that Hugh Hefner invented furries at the Playboy Mansion by putting bunny tails on girls.
He was the original furry.
I'm pretty sure.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, but it was happening in like the French during like the French. This is strange, but it was happening during like the French Gilded Age.
Yeah, no, that's
in like
true.
the 1700s too.
Yep. No, you're right. Like,
But
Versailles,
Hugh probably saw that and he was like, "Great idea."
in Versailles, that like they do that, like, or Versailles or whatever, they do that whole thing where there's like this weird parades of like furry looking people from that they're replicating from the 1700s.
I mean, and I don't care what adults do.
Maybe
like it's not. I don't care what consenting adults do. If they want to dress up like furries and do their like kink, then go for it.
Me
Just
too.
don't involve kids. Like that is a basic requirement. Don't involve kids. Like protect the children.
The
like
thing is that people will argue here that it's the next step into completely banning it. Blah blah blah. Okay. There's a gray area. One of the things that makes me mad about this article with Rolling Stone is that DeSantis sucks in a lot of ways. Like he's being terrible to migrants. Some of his laws are literally anti-LGBTQ, like the Don't Say Gay bill is horrible. So he's doing horrible things. And then for them to write an article to be like, he's not letting kids into like a sexual event, it's stupid. Because okay, there are things to criticize him about. This is not one of them. So you just look like you're crazy and you're actually doing the work of the fascist by defending this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Because it makes him look like sane to a larger portion of us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because they're literally making him look better because we're agreeing with something because of what their objection to it is ridiculous. So like it's making us agree with him. It's boosting him. It's not, you know what I mean? Like when we're like, shit, I don't want to agree with this person, but I fucking do. Then that means that they are being, you know what I mean? Like, and if the opposite side of it is then pushing that even further by doing an article like this, then they're really boosting him.
Yeah. No, they are. Absolutely. And here it says the ACLU referred to it as a blatant attempt to erase drag performances and silence the LGBTQ plus community. One, furries isn't drag.
I know, and they always want to complain
like LGBTQ. That I mean, I guess it is now.
Are furries part of this?
Okay, but no one's supposed to do this.
But are furries part of the LGBTQ?
Is it QF now?
Oh my god! Is that part of
here? That it's because 80% are self-identified, but those are still two different things. But adults can go to this. All that this is saying is 18 and older.
Yeah.
Like adults can, all they're saying is minors can't go to this. I mean, I don't see the big deal if they're having like sexual acts and stuff like later on in the night and sexual shows and sexual boosts to say, yeah, this should probably be 18 or over.
Lady Alex is like LGBT. F you. What? That's not the right letters.
It's crazy. It feels like it's just what?
Yeah, it's sensationalism for the sake of sensationalism. Thanks, Jerry Springer.
It just it's going to make people go like think that DeSantis is like, they'll be like, oh, well, he wasn't for that. You know what I mean? It gives them a nugget to hold on to.
Mm-hmm. While they are literally doing like insane book bans in Florida, they're also the Don't Say Gay bill really is awful. So there are awful things that Rolling Stone could be covering here.
Yep.
But instead they're like, kids can't go to the furries convention. Oh my god!
They take the other side of it.
What are we doing here? It's total oppression. And then normal people look at this and go, "Kids going to a furries convention?"
That's the one thing. That's the
some people don't even know what it is.
Rolling Stone will jump on the most shit lib narrative it can, like, oh, there's one dangling, it'll just jump on immediately. Oh, they won't let him go to that, like whatever it is that's
it doesn't even matter what it is.
The most ludicrous thing that is the wrongest take that you could have on it is the one that they're going to support for sure. That supports our democratic fucking backers. Our donors will be like, sure, way to go, Rolling Stone. You guys rock.
No, I don't. Okay, we need critical thinking said.
Critical thinking.
If I see some crush you, I don't think that's sexy at all. You are weird. No, we're not saying that we feel that kink way, but the people that do it and that do that,
you're adults. Who cares, man?
And
they do the. I don't. Oh.
Yeah, no.
I don't look at someone in a costume like that and think that that's like I'm not like turned on by that. Like that's not my kink. But it is a kink that people have.
But this is so weird because for so long furries have been like, we're not inviting kids. This has nothing to do with children. What we do has nothing to do with children. They've been saying that for like 30 years.
Yeah, turns out
that's goes against everything that they've been saying for like 30 years.
Yes.
Yeah. And like the LGBTQ has always been supposed to have been like an 18, like that's an adult thing. That's not supposed to really be like a kid thing. Like maybe like 16 up, I could say, you know what I mean? But like it's really like it's about sexuality.
It's about sexuality.
Like,
I mean,
you know what I mean?
The idea of like, if you're wearing a full-on costume that makes you look like a cartoon animal, that's not really like, it's not appealing. If you have a little tiny bunny tail on your bottom of your bikini, that's kind of hot. You know what I mean? But like, other than I don't see the attraction. It's just how much of a cartoon character is the person, you know what I mean, in question going to become, and how people actually prefer that, people to look like that. Like you look like a stuffed animal. I want to hump you.
Yeah, I don't.
Bizarre.
I don't know how that's a thing. But like adults can do adult things.
That is just a rumor, Yepex.
If that's their thing,
unsubstantiated.
Oh my god!
If that's their thing, they should have every right to do that. Have a convention, do whatever they want.
Absolutely.
But states should also be able to say, okay, if you're later on in the evening and if you're going to have sexually explicit content, it's 18 and over.
Yes. I agree 100%.
I mean, both of those things can exist and are and it's so crazy that, again, I keep going back to, because I've known the kink community for years. I've been part of the LGBTQ community for years too.
Yeah, exactly. So
how long have furries been like, we have nothing to do with kids. This isn't for kids. This is for adults.
Yeah, drag too. Like all of it. Like it was just like, no, it's 18 plus. Like that was just always the case.
Churches should be 18 and over too. That's true. I'm down with that.
Churches
like, just make everything 18 and over. Sorry kids, you can't do anything until you're old enough. No Jesus for you, and I don't want to hear another word out of you. I will turn this bus around, mister. I am, yeah.
But like, it's like the same concept like of when people have you heard people be like, oh well, look at this, at least look, it wasn't a drag queen or you could say a furry that did this thing. Oh, look, it's a priest. Blah, blah, blah. Like both sides of it do the same kind of like thing when it comes to like, like predators too. Like they're like, oh, well, my side didn't do this, but that side, look, it's that side this time. Whoever their perceived enemy is, it's like the same thing. This is just like that partisan, like, freaking political bullshit. It's just more of it. It's just like, it's such a manipulative article to write to try to get like outrage. Like, really?
It doesn't help the it doesn't help with, one of the problems is the misdemeanor law, that was passed for adults, that says, the bathroom bill is problematic, because what are they going to do? Start checking people's genitalia? Like, how are they going to enforce this law? Everything's like really cloudy and stupid. That's a problem, and that should be discussed. But to equate it to saying for this event that has sexual content 18 and over, those two things don't match. Like, you're doing a disservice to having criticism of this other law, which should be criticized, because you're trying to make an argument for something extreme that no one is asking for. Like, who's out there in the streets doing, like marches so that kids can go to furry conventions? That's not a thing. It's not a thing.
No, it never has been. But it seems like everything is like absolutely like ass backwards now. Like, you know what I mean? Like, okay, and so now they go on down this here and they say many furries are marginalized in some way. In addition to many identifying as LGBTQ, a sizable percentage of furries are also neurodivergent. Are you kidding me? No, they don't get to use that. They don't get to use that. Like, they don't. Come on. So, like, now they're marginalized because they are furries?
Ooh, over the past few years, children have increasingly been gravitating toward the fandom for this reason. What fandom? I'm confused. I don't even know what that means.
Is that like being a fanboy, a fangirl? Like you're a furry fan? I don't know. Your guess is.
I mean, because if it was like cosplay or something, there's already a space for those, like Comic-Cons and stuff like that, where people can dress up as like their favorite characters, and it's not sexual.
Oh my God, this is insane. This paragraph down here. Many parents whose children are involved in this subculture credit it with helping them overcome bullying or gain self-esteem. At conventions, Carrie says, there will be parents crying in a corner because they didn't see their kids so happy every day. We had a mom break down because she's never seen her kid feel so comfortable just sitting at a table and interacting with other kids. In a furry costume, they're behind an actual mask. She said it is heartbreaking to think of young furries not having a space to connect. So if the kids are dressing up in these costumes too, they're just interacting with people behind a mask.
Now it's an identity, like, instead of it being something that you kind of do, like doing cosplay or it being a kink or it being like a part of you, like it's now an identity.
Oh God.
So you are that character, like that's your identity.
Like that's when you really are who you are, is when you're in character.
Teresa said she hated being raised by hippies because when the adults would skinny dip in the hot springs, I thought it was gross. And I'm like thinking, yeah, it's gross to you because you're not exposed to it. Like the only time you see it is then. And you know what I mean? It's not a normal thing. If everybody was naked all the time, it wouldn't be nothing. Everybody would.
Yeah, it's
still kind of inappropriate to go hot skinny dipping around kids, I think.
Absolutely. I agree. But also I understand that in some places that's like, nakedness is like the fucking least of anybody's worries. If people are acting inappropriately with the children, that's where the problem is, not, you know what I mean? People being naked around each other, because we're all, we all come in the same way.
I mean, there's tribes that don't, that don't do that, but it's because they were, they were raised that way. You know what I mean? Right. So it just depends on, like on how, like your exposure to it and whether it's normal for you or not.
And if the adults
because there are like nudist colonies and stuff like that.
Sure.
Too.
Yeah.
If the adults are like acting inappropriately with children, that's what
the problem is. It's the intention, and we can't always like spot intention. Yeah. And I think that right there is that is why, like, you know, when people have an issue with who goes into what bathroom is because you can't spot intention. So they're taking intention of some people that are acting inappropriate, because there is always going to be inappropriate people, right? There's kind of like, as a society, like, I don't think we can eliminate people from doing things. So they're taking people that are being inappropriate and they're, like, you know, associating it with a certain type of person because that's what's happening. You know, so like they're associating it with that, and it might be misguided or not, but we don't know people's intention. Their intention isn't outwardly. So they're taking intention of some people and then they're putting it on a group of people. Like, they're labeling people because of whoever's intention it is, right?
Very true.
I'm reading the chat. Grey Walker's like, the surprised that or wait a minute, did I read it right? So yeah, he's like, I'm surprised that dating apps are a place for predators. And I'm like, how could you be surprised when there is no vetting at all? It's just whoever wants to be on there, and you don't know who you're talking to at all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? None of them.
Yeah.
So like, if there is no process of actually knowing who you're talking to at any given time,
yeah,
there's no vetting there. So of course predators are gonna fucking feed there.
Yeah, I mean, and
vampires.
And there's sites like that parents don't always think of, like Pinterest and stuff like that. Like there is DM through Pinterest. So like people have access to, you know what I mean, to kids, and like, you know, there's just, people always figure out a way. If they're gonna, you know what I mean, if they when there's a will, there's a way. They're gonna always try to figure it out. We just have to do the best that we can to keep, you know, the kids that we do know that are online safe, you know. But yeah, so yeah, this I just thought that this was just really a crazy article, and I wanted to get your reaction to it, just because.
Well, there's another part there, Lucky, that kind of makes me a little angry because of like Rolling Stone writing this, and it said that there has been a lie perpetuating that litter boxes are going into school because kids are identifying as furries.
Yeah,
you know, and people are like, kids shouldn't be identifying as furries, and also there shouldn't be litter boxes. Like, we should be teaching kids to be comfortable without, you know, having to wear costumes and masks. It's fine to play, and it's fine to, but we should also not cultivate that as an identity as part of it. And also, you know, like, this whole mythology around it is that, you know, all these kids are becoming furries, and then at the same time in the article, in the very next paragraph, they basically say all these kids are becoming furries and they deserve a safe space. And it's like, you're like doing the work for the right for them. You're doing the work of the right extremist by making a big deal out of this basically nothing burger, you know, by acting like it's this big oppressive event, and, you know, thousands of kids are going to be disappointed, and that, you know, furrydom is saving children's lives and shit. You're playing into the hands of the right extremism. You're playing into those very people that are lying, saying litter boxes are being used in classrooms. You're like doing the thing.
Yeah. It's actually pushing, you know what I mean? This one article, because the way that it's framed, it's going to get the people that are into this, like, all riled up, that, like, oh my gosh, our rights are going to be taken away. People are going to, like, get behind it, even if they don't understand it, just because it has LGBTQ and stuff in there, and they have that in there. And, like, that's, like, you know, being part of LGBTQ is, like, become, like, almost like a protected class thing, which is, like, really weird, because it was always just about being equal, not having more protection. Like, it was no LG, like, when it was just LGB, like, it was just about that. It wasn't about, like, being, you know, better than anybody else. But it feels like it's just gone, like, to this weird place. And I'm like, I look at the rainbow flag now, that I've always had rainbow flags, and, like, I always you know what I mean? Like, I love rainbow stuff, and, like, I've always, like, celebrated that. And now I'm like, I don't even want to, like, do it anymore. Like, I don't want to have a rainbow flag. I don't want to, because it's gotten really weird. it's just gotten really weird, and it just gives me like these weird things now. I'm like, this isn't right. This is like evolving to a place where it's not the same as where it started.
Right. And I just saw, ironically, an article from Rolling Stone debunking that kids are identifying as furries from like 7 months ago. And then now they're writing this whole article about how kids are identifying as furries and how important it is for them to come to this convention.
Oh my God.
They belong. Vice has an article. Let's see who else has an article. The Guardian, Slate, fur mongering. Kids are not identifying as animals. New York Times, kids are not identifying as furries. Like LGBTQ support, furries are not a part of the LGBTQ community. Children are not identifying as furries. Like I'm looking at it right now.
Many.
And then this article comes out like, you can't ban kids from the furries convention because children, it's the only way they can feel accepted. And it's like, especially neurodivergent kids. I'm like, what? As someone who's autistic, that actually makes sense to you.
Yeah, like I'm on the spectrum as well. Like, and so like that's just not okay to like use that. Like that's not okay at all. Like that like really freaks me out. Like,
oh, this journalist for this nonsense. It's like there's a million things to criticize DeSantis for. He just passed a horrific migrant law. He's trying to push for child labor so that it's legal for kids to work in like factories and shit there as young as 9. And they want to write about this. Like there's like 30 things to criticize Ron DeSantis about right now of him being really crazy. You want to make him president, then go out and throw a fit because he said that the kids can't go to a sex convention.
Yeah. So EJ Dixon, you're a dick. Like,
fuck, you see what Snork said? He's like, I'm a teacher and we are told to treat them as real and give them respect. The first day I have to tell them they cannot relieve themselves in class. Good Lord.
What?
Yeah. Welcome to modern day with furry cat people, litter boxes in schools, and
I believe that is a myth for the most part. I like to hope why that happened. There was litter boxes in school because it was actually put there in case there was a school shooting or a natural disaster or something happened, so that they would have like places where kids could go if there was a lockdown of some kind. So that's why litter boxes were placed in some classrooms. It was emergency. It was for emergencies. But
well, yeah, you know, you use the regular restroom if it's not an emergency. But ultimately, I think the cats, there was a certain sensationalism about kids being furries and identifying as furries that like fed that news story, so that like it was alluded to, I think mostly on Twitter, like, you know what I mean, like, they're gonna put the litter boxes in the junior high next year, and everybody's up in arms about it except for the kittens. Kittens are happy. I don't. Sometimes I just don't even like know what to. Yeah, I don't even know. Like we are existing on the dumbest timeline. Exactly. Like I can't see like more scenarios getting. Well, I can't say that because like a couple of years ago, if you would have told me like Rolling Stone is going to be bitching about, you know, furries not being able to fucking have their furry convention with the children and adult, come on. It just keeps getting weirder. Is anybody else sensing this? It's like exponentially weirder as we progress.
It is getting weirder. So like, does anyone know, is a furry an identity? Is that like a thing?
There's some debate over that. I just Googled it, and apparently there's a lot of debate around that.
Oh my gosh.
Well,
but there was literature I found, you know, for school systems and stuff, like literal literature just now when I was looking about how to address it with kids and how to, you know, be aware and empathetic with their identity if they identify as that. But it never really was an identity. I think it's fine for kids to explore, to wear hell, how many kids think that they're a superhero and put on a cape and, you know, want to go to school dressed up as a princess or a superhero or a fireman or an astronaut or whatever? That's fine. But I think I do think that there has to be some distinction between a kid who's just dressing up and like playing a character as all children do, and with something that's sexual, you know, and especially like a convention like we were talking about that has like sexual booths and sexual, they said they have like sexual content at it, and it was started because it was a sexual movement. There's a big difference between the two, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like having a kid identify as a lion and then playing into that and being like, yes, you are a furry now. When they're like 6 or 7, I don't think that that's right. It's like, yeah, sure, you want to be a tiger today. Whatever, Joey, go be a tiger. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, here's your tiger trophy at the end of the day. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think that it's really blurring the lines of like reality and that fantasy. And
the whole thing is like that. Like even us just discussing this story is so ludicrous and so like inane on its face. Like, why are we talking? Let's keep talking about like doing something positive, because these things are the like the little microcosms of how they just spin narrative and make you have the feels about one thing or another. Get your energy diverted into some kind of other thing that you're divided with people about. You know what I mean? Like,
I blame CERN for pulling us into this timeline.
Mm-hmm.
It's all CERN's fault.
It's either that or hear me out. It could have happened when W was in charge and they used the direct energy weapons to nuke the WTs in New York City. I mean, it might have started there. Could it be CERN? It's anybody's guess, really.
it could be a number of things, but yeah, like that's just. I was just like, wow, I wanted to see what you thought of that, because I'm like, this is a little bit like out there for me, like for me to look at it and go, wait, what? Like, I was waiting for it. Like, where's the? Then I start seeing the little like strains of like, you know, like they're putting the LGBTQ, and I'm like, oh, here we go. This is it. You know, like they're gonna put them in the same category, and then they're gonna be like, yeah, and now neurodivergent. It's like, no, you don't get to use people that actually have a real thing like that. Like, you don't get to use that. Like, come on.
This argument hurts the LGBTQ community. It hurts.
Yes, it puts us backwards.
Community.
Yeah,
we look insane. Because
yeah,
we have sex booths, but kids should come. It's like,
no.
The next thing, it's going to be kitty bondage. Is that it? Kitty S&M?
Maybe.
Like,
meow. You know, Salty's like, I don't know about you guys, but now I want to be a furry. It's like, it's a subliminal thing, man. They tricked us again. Damn it.
Oh my gosh.
Salty,
well, no, it just makes
don't
it
put on the costume. Bro.
It makes like adults just wanting to, like, you know what I mean? Like it makes like, you know, like if you want to wear like just cat ears or be fun or something like that, it just makes it feel like it's a thing or something. You know what I mean? Like, are you a furry?
If I ever tell you that I need to borrow your cat ears because I want to be fun tonight, just kick me in the nuts immediately, because that's the last thing that I want to do.
I would think something was wrong if you did that, Steve.
That's not.
I would be like,
really
what?
In my wheelhouse.
No, I would laugh at you.
Fun Steve might laugh at it hysterically for about 5 minutes, and then tell you to.
He does wear a unicorn wig,
allegedly,
and he has an alternate, like, you know, alter ego called Little Horny. But it's not a furry thing. It's not an all the time thing. It's like a, you know what I mean? Like
It's only when we go to the Playboy Mansion.
no.
No, that's not.
Well,
That's
to
not-
each your own, you know, y'all are adults, the furries are adults, you know, like whatever people want to do, you know, and then it's a separate thing. Some little, if you want to buy, like Lydia had this little tiger costume and she wanted to wear it way past Halloween. And I let her, and she went to the daycare. She'd take the head off, but she'd wear like the tiger part of it, you know, this
Yeah.
and I still have that costume because it's so cute, but she wanted to keep wearing that and it was fine. My 4-year-old wasn't a furry. She wasn't identifying as furry. She wanted to wear the rah, you know, and so I'd draw little whiskers on her and she would go to school like that. Like, who gives a shit? That's fun.
Yeah.
It's just childhood fun. And then there was a time she wanted to wear her princess dresses to school every day. And I let her.
Yeah, like that's not a
Who
big,
gives
you know
a
what I mean?
shit, you know?
But that's different than adults doing something that is sexual in nature and having like a convention thing and then being like, yeah, but we want the kids to be able to be here too. Like,
We're having a sexy time convention. Kids are welcome. It's like, no. And even if they said that it's separate at night, you know, like how well are they regulating their booths? Like, what are they doing? You know, also people are there for the sexual stuff. And then I'm bringing my kid. That makes me feel weird. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
specifically they're being sexually aroused in these outfits because that's kind of part of the point of it. And then I'm walking around with my kid with people that are like walking around. Like, I've seen videos from like people go in the bathroom and hook up and they go and they hook up and stuff. Like, it's a whole thing. Like, it's a whole sexy thing in the hotel rooms, but also there in the convention centers. And then you're walking around with a little kid and you've got people that are getting all like hot about each other's like furriness.
Yeah, it's
That's
creepy.
weird. That's inappropriate. Cosplay, go to cosplay. Like, if you want to dress up and do all of that stuff, go to Comic-Con. Go to these there's plenty of things that are geared toward children and adults that is not sexual.
Yep.
That allows for that exploration.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Do it like just yeah. I just don't. I'm just, you know, and we're not like prude or anything like that. Like, it's not like that kind of thing. It's just that, you know, when you're an adult, you can do adult things, like, you know.
Yeah, and it sucks that you have to police people in the first place like that. You know what I mean? If people would just fucking be fucking respectable to children and understand that there should be some established boundaries between the two things. It's not that hard to understand.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm sure it's not really that hard to facilitate either. You know what I mean? Like, they had little rooms that you had to go back and get your porn from when they used to have video sales where you go rent a video or whatever. Why can't they just have like a thing where a dude's like, no, kid, you're too little, you can't come in here, and just, you know what I mean? It would be so easy for them to police themselves effectively and demonstrate it and show like this is how we do it, and to assure the people that this has nothing to do with the children and they can't be a part of this aspect of it. You know what I mean? Like, I think it doesn't sound that difficult to do. Like, you have concerts where minors attend, and you have concerts where adults are fucking trashed right next to them, but there's a divider between them to keep them separate, and there's people making sure that they're not combining.
Well,
yeah, it's an inherently sexual thing
for people that wear these kinds of costumes and make these kinds of costumes and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. That's not sexual at all. That's just like, you know, a costume themed thing. Mm-hmm. So you can go, it's kind of like a cosplay thing, but it's more geared toward this type of costumes. You know what I mean? Right. And that's all over. And they say that they're more like a carnival and stuff like that. The thing with this specific one, though, is that it says it includes sexual content specifically. All these others say they don't have sexual content in them at all. This one says that they have because I was just looking it up. This one says they have sexual content, and it is specifically a furries convention. And they got like pictures with the collars and the, you know, the sexual poses and stuff. And, and all their advertising is geared for the sexuality of it. So it's a lot different than having one that's like just people that make these kinds of costumes, right?
Yeah.
That's
If it was like a makers convention and they made the stuff and the people weren't necessarily like, you know what I mean? Like
just the cosplay people, but ultimately
yeah,
if you're advertising that sexual aspect of it,
then yeah, there should be no kids.
Shouldn't be welcome there. That's like, it's the adult version of Comic-Con. You know what I mean? Like, it's simple. Like, why can't people just understand that it shouldn't be that difficult to police this? Like, this is just like a common sense thing. And people get all up in arms. Well, I want to take my kids there. Well, that's not a place for your kids. Just like the drag show is not a place for you to bring your children.
Yeah, like just like the strip club, you don't take them to the strip club. The kids aren't supposed to be at like a bar. You know what I mean? Like there's just 18 plus events and things, and adults deserve to have their space too. Like adults deserve to have an adult space where they can just be freaking adults. You know what I mean? And not have to worry. You know, like
children. Exactly. There should be safe spaces for both things.
Yeah, like a safe space for adult. How about that? Like as a safe place for what players supposed to be, or a safe place for adults to do adult things. You know, I mean, like there's a reason why kids aren't in those spaces. It's also to keep them safe, but it's also a safe place for adults to be an adult. Like, you know, like I wouldn't take my daughter, you know, she was a kid. I didn't take her to like when I went out to the gay bars and stuff. I didn't take her to the gay bars. That doesn't mean that she didn't know, like, you know what I mean, what, you know, like my lifestyle and what I chose, but like that was my adult time. I didn't take her with me. Like it
a bunch of these that look fun as hell. Apparently there's like a furry siesta in Texas, but it's like a whole bunch of like kid stuff and it's goofy and it looks like fun, you know. And then there's like they do have minor badges and stuff, and parents have to be attended. No sexual content at all.
Then that's fine. Yeah. Like
and
of course
against sexual content. And that's fine for all ages. See, they made it safe for all ages.
Yeah.
This particular one is a sexual event. Yeah.
So yeah, there shouldn't be kids there. Like it shouldn't even be a thing.
Things that I kind of wouldn't mind to go to. They look awesome. But anyway, this particular one's just different. So why argue in defense of this one, you know, who's not even doing what the other ones are doing, which is completely separating and not doing this sexual stuff. So bringing attention to this one probably would be frustrating to those other ones that are just like, we don't do any of that. You know?
Yeah, like we actually are, you know, a family friendly, like just like funny thing. Like that's it.
That's
and,
funny how that works though. Like just the division, man. It's like just another story, another thing, another way for
they latch on to it
to divide people on like principles that are not really being observed, just on the pretext of, you know, pretext of a headline. How you feel about that headline dictates like the whole thing. Like, oh well, that's not right, you can't have kids there. Okay, well, so you're telling me they have other ones where kids are welcome and they don't have sexual stuff? Okay, so
and where was that in the article?
Where was that in the article?
Nothing.
When was the thing explained fully? You know, ever, never.
It wasn't
in the Rolling Stone
because there
any other MSM periodical
actually put actual details of that in the other their article would be pointless and they would be calling out their own points. So like they just like omit that information. It's not real journalism. There's a lot of people acting like they're real journalists out here that aren't actually like, you know, like they're not doing actual journalism. And I'm not just talking about mainstream media and the Rolling Stone. I am talking about all levels of people sharing information and giving the information. I am talking about indie media on up to MSM, because I think that a lot of the people are just not actually checking the facts. They're not really doing the like. It's a repeat of, oh, well, so and so said it, and so that's been vetted. But if people are not checking themselves, then that loop, if someone does get something wrong and everyone's just kind of repeating that same thing, then we're all getting it wrong. So what does it matter? You know?
It doesn't take long to check. I mean, I just checked, Lucky, to make sure that, hey, I've got a comment on this. Are there good furry conventions out there? Are there some that are appropriate for kids? Because I don't want to misspeak and put them all in a bucket. I want to understand what this is about a little bit, And there are, and apparently, there are some that are more like cosplay and that are very kid friendly, and that's what it's all about. And so I don't want to misspeak about those when it's just fun, but there's nuance, and people like to put everything in like a bucket together when sometimes everything doesn't fit in that same bucket,
Yeah, it's not, you're not always going to find the answer in a partisan, one way or another. It just doesn't, it doesn't work that way. You guys crack me up.
Yeah, our chat is the funniest.
We have the best people. Like, I'm just saying,
I got furloughed once.
I know. You guys, they're always cracking me up. Like,
so many plays on words tonight. I'm so old now. I used to be so witty and hilarious, and at least I thought I was. But now I don't get anything anymore. Like my best friend, he'll tell me a joke all the time, and I'll just be like, oh, yeah. It'll be like 45 seconds later. God, I'm so friggin' lame. It sucks. Why am I so lame?
You're not lame.
I'll watch your chat and I'll be like, what? And then I'm like, oh, all night.
If you go to the furry convention and see lots of vans, I'd turn around. He said,
I know.
I'm salty.
Not every van is a creepy van, okay? My van gets labeled as a creepy van.
It looks creepy. It looks like could be a creepy van, but it's not.
It does. It's an old 91 van, but
yeah.
A panel van?
It doesn't have the panel or anything. It's a red, it's like a maroon kind of red old work van.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I love the van.
The van runs good. It's a beast.
Yeah.
Well, you can get those to run forever.
Yeah,
well, I bought the van. I bought the van, was it 5 years ago? Was it 5 years ago? 5 years ago, maybe.
Yeah.
5 years ago. A little over 5 years ago. I bought it with 87,000 miles, original miles. And it's a 91. So yeah,
Wow. Holy crap.
Yeah. So I've had to replace some of like the original parts and everything like that, but like and the odometer or whatever the freak, it stopped working as soon as I got it. So like I don't know how many miles I've put on it since I got it. That's the only thing. I just don't know how many miles it has now.
We're back and forth. You've gone far.
I apologize. Both of my animals wanted in.
Oh no need to apologize.
This is Artie.
Oh,
before she's about to scratch my face off though.
Oh, she's so cute.
I love her so much. She's the one that visits me in the bathroom like a weirdo.
Yeah.
Oh,
Pepper does that to me. He gets up on the sink and he walks across the sink across my shoulders onto the windowsill and back and forth
And then they want all kinds of affection. It's so strange. It's like you hate me any other time, but when I'm on the bathroom, you're like, I love you.
I love it.
I love you. You're in the most vulnerable place right now. You can't get up and chase me. You can't do anything. So I want you to give me all your love.
I'm pretty sure cats have like an internal narrative voice that's like Eastern European, and they're like I kill you, I love you. And they're just always, and
they all sound the same.
They always sound the same, and they're always conflicted. They're like, I love you, and then I kill you.
Yeah, that's what Steve says. They all say. I don't.
Oh, they are.
I don't know. Where did Leo go?
It's been my experience.
Leo.
And puppers are just like.
Okay, Ella. Hi.
Just goofy.
Hi. Yes, I know. I missed you too.
Oh,
look, there's Leo. Do you see Leo?
Oh my God, they both do that like.
Oh,
Oh,
Did you hear that?
do you hear that? His tail's wagging.
Yeah, like,
He's like, what? Do you hear that?
Do you see her?
she go girl. She go girl.
Oh
Look at Leo's
my
ears.
gosh.
That's like a form of furryism right there. You hold up your dog and show each other. It's like virtual furries, something. Some kind of correlation between the two.
Well, I think we're gonna wrap up. We've been going for we're almost to 3 hours.
Holy!
I know it went by so quick. I can't believe it. So where can people find you?
Yes, please.
Where are you putting your work out anywhere? I know you're on the Twitter sometimes.
Well, first off, I hope I didn't take us too far off track because it did go down.
Oh
some
no,
rabbit holes.
I think I loved our conversation. I think it was awesome. I like having a loose topic where we can just kind of like go from there, like just wherever it goes and doesn't have to be like, controlled or anything.
It was fun. I really enjoyed coming on. And you guys having me on. It's always awesome.
You're welcome to come back. Yeah.
Right now, I have no idea what I'm doing. Honestly, I was going to start a news channel, and then I just got so tired of politics and the drama and what felt like drama on the left. And just like, I felt like I came out of a cult. No joke. I know you and I have talked about that before, where it was so like felt programmed almost, and I had to get back to myself and thinking objectively and sort of clear the cloud. So, I took a break. I stepped back and I may do some writing and some videos, but I'm kind of one of those people that is, kind of finding my way spiritually right now. I know that sounds so crazy because I'm like not one of those yoga wine moms. It's like, I'm so wealthy that I can just worry about my spirituality and that the universe is what you make it. So anything that's happened into your life, that means that you brought it on to yourself with your bad karma.
You would make such funny videos making fun of the people. That would be hilarious. Like, point of view ones. Like, you know what I mean?
If you want to do outrageous videos, we should do that because we could help you produce like crazy, silly.
That would be really funny. Like, just you know what I mean? Like.
I believe in reincarnation, so I do believe that
Yep.
some souls come and visit, and I do believe that in some ways we do kind of have lessons we want to learn, but I do not believe that you choose to come here and live in suffering and poverty and abuse, that you've chosen that for yourself. And I think that that's just a way for rich people to be like, well, they chose it. It was their karma. So I feel better about being able to get on my gut.
That's right.
That's great.
That poor person is just that way because of karma. I mean, it's basically a caste system, right? It's the same like mentality as like the caste system. But that's become a really popular theme. Like, you make your own destiny. So like anything that you've lived is your fault. It's not the universe's, because the universe is open to everyone.
That's right. You're manifesting.
Anyway, but
It's easy to be it's easy to think that from that from that level of where you're at.
Yeah, well, if
maybe I'll just do up my hair and makeup, and make myself super preppy, and then I'll do that character on TikTok. That'll be my new.
Yeah,
that would be hilarious.
If you all want to see that, follow me on @Zenab Day on Twitter.
I think you definitely should.
Yeah.
Should do that.
And when you're ready to like really launch your TikTok and stuff, you can come back on and like present your like do a coming out of your TikTok journey.
Once you rack up a few of them, so people can binge watch them, and it'll take off.
Yeah.
The whole crunchy mom thing, where I'm judging people about like the kind of food that they buy and like drinking non-organic milk. How dare you? And you don't have it. Oh my God. Like, you mean you don't have your own chickens? Like,
most pretentious rich lady is fantastic, especially if a poor person does it. It's quintessential.
Yeah, like the point of
That's
views.
the best.
That would just be so funny. The point of views like
Talk
that.
about my tiny home.
Yes.
Yes, you have
Talk
like
about
a
the tiny
whole like character. Like
Tiny home.
I traded 6 Arby's tickets for this tiny home, and now I used my food stamps last month, and I got a whole half of a cow that I traded for, this lawnmower or whatever.
No, she's got she's got to be the mom that's in the tiny home that's still like the shit lib, and
well, that would be even better.
The
rich, the wine. Well, you could have the opposing. You know what I mean? You could have like the one that's dirt poor, living in a tent, that's just trading up. Got them. I parlayed my tiny home into a Tesla. And just like you could just go on from there.
I pulled myself up by my bootstraps.
That's right, because it's the American way.
Oh man.
Oh,
I look forward
we
to
love
it though.
You all people, thank you for hanging out with us.
Yes,
thank you, Zenab. It's been a blast.
So they can find you on Twitter for now, and we'll update people when you are on more platforms or whatever you're doing. We'll definitely keep people up to date on that.
Okay.
So exciting!
It was so good. Thanks for having me.
All right, bye everybody. Have a great night.
Good night.